Chapter 666. Sigh. Something small happened. I've been busy until now. Here's the second update. I said I'm going to explode today, so I must complete it. I'll continue writing the third chapter, but it'll be a little late. Bright red blood fell like rain. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and the thick smell of blood filled the air. It gave people a strange feeling of excitement, and even their eyes kept turning red. Driven by the original sin of greed, hundreds of cultivators clashed with the many beasts. The beasts' bodies were terrifyingly tough, and they glowed with a metallic luster. Their defensive power was terrifying, and their offensive power was also quite sharp. This world was filled with the power of metal. Among the 5 elements, metal represented sharpness, and was the embodiment of sharpness. Their lethality was abnormally terrifying. Moreover, there were so many of them that they didn't fear death. Even before they died, they would leave a scar on their enemies. It seemed that there was no fear in them at all. Therefore, although the hundreds of cultivators all practiced cultivation techniques, had protective Dharma treasures on them, had powerful divine weapons in their hands, and all kinds of divine arts and Dharma spells, they were powerful enough to fight against the ferocious beasts of the same level. However, the ferocious beasts were almost endless. After killing a fierce beast and snatching a weapon embryo, they were immediately attacked by dozens of fierce beasts. Many cultivators died on the spot. Their bodies were minced into pieces and blood splashed everywhere. The strange thing was, after those cultivators died, their bodies melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. They turned into blood and disappeared into the ground. Not even a drop of flesh and blood could be seen. It was as if that person didn't exist at all. They were swallowed by the world. Seeing this strange scene in the void, Shirtian's eyes couldn't help but shrink violently. His expression became even calmer. This place is indeed strange. This world can swallow flesh and blood. It had actually devoured all the flesh and blood. This scene clearly had a formless strangeness to it. How could such a thing happen in an ordinary world? TSK. It seems that myriad calamity Ancestor has a purpose in creating the 5 desolate regions. All the cultivators who die here, not even their corpses will remain. They will all be devoured by this world. However, what exactly is he trying to do? Ming had naturally noticed this scene as well, and she pondered deeply in her heart. During the ancient times, there were truly too many methods to absorb flesh and blood. Flesh and blood contained enormous amounts of energy, and absorbing it through special methods was usually able to obtain all sorts of mysterious effects. Moreover, there were many things that required the use of fresh blood, or even flesh and blood as a sacrifice. Wait a minute, it was almost too complicated. I don't care what the myriad calamity Ancestor wants to do, but this is a good place. What do you think, Ming? If I nurture the ultimate perfect world source seed here, would this cavern be able to withstand the heavenly punishment? Shirtian didn't have the slightest bit of pity in his eyes as he watched the slaughter below. Greed is the cause of all disasters. Since he was greedy and wanted to seize the embryonic artifact, it was his own fault that he was killed by the ferocious beasts. He couldn't blame anyone else. Without strength, he dared to act rashly. The price for his recklessness was his life. Thinking of the enormous body of the enormous demonic dragon in the cavern and its supreme demonic might, a thought emerged in Yishiwen's mind. You want to evolve the world source seed into a perfect seed here. Ming licked his lips, and the light in his eyes flickered crazily. Lunatic D is indeed a lunatic. Myriad calamity Ancestor created this cavern, and this demonic dragon's body is as strong as a peerless expert. If you want to undergo the tribulation here, TSK, you might be able to withstand the heavenly punishment. However, this idea of yours is still too dangerous. Myriad calamity Ancestor must have set up a considerable backup plan in this cavern. Moreover, he might not have really died. Perhaps this old bastard is hiding in some mysterious place in the cavern. Once he is provoked, I'm afraid it will be even more dangerous. Moreover, in my opinion, you still need to prepare for the heavenly punishment. This thing could even kill a peerless powerhouse. Myriad Calamity Cavern might not be able to withstand it, so you need to prepare a backup plan. The world's source seed was to open up one's own inner world. This was a crucial step for every expert. It was also the most important thing for one to break through the shackles of heaven and earth and become a peerless expert. Ever since Di Shirtian obtained the world source seed, he had continuously upgraded it from low grade to high grade. If it was anyone else, they would have been overjoyed to obtain a high grade world source seed and couldn't wait to consume it to open up their inner world. This was because even those peak experts might not use a high-grade world source seed when opening up their inner world. One had to know that since the birth of heaven and earth, no one had ever seen a perfect world source seed. As for Di Shirtian, even if he knew that a high-grade world source seed was a rare treasure, he still resisted the temptation to open up his own world and waited for the right time. He wanted to use the right time, the right place, and the right people to achieve perfection in one go. The moment he saw the indomitable tribulation cave abode, this thought kept circling in Sakra's mind. To cultivate a perfect world source seed, there was no better place than the Myriad Calamity Cavern. Wisps of wisdom flickered in his eyes. Di Shirtian revealed a confident expression. You once said that the land of chaos is independent of the origin continent, outside the demigod continent, and evolved from a piece of chaos fragment. Here, even the heavenly secrets will become chaotic. Who knows, if I transcend my tribulation here, I might be able to block the heavenly punishment senses. Even if I can't, its power might be reduced by a lot. There is no better place to transcend a tribulation in heaven and earth than here. He already had this idea when he learned about the history of the land of chaos. Moreover, I've already cultivated up to the 8th volume of the Emperor Shocking the World book. Even with the help of the Bodhi tree's enlightenment power, I could only deduce up to the 9th volume of the entire cultivation technique. Once I reach the 9th transformation stage, my cultivation will stop immediately if I don't have any more cultivation techniques to follow. Di Shirtian's expression was solemn as he said firmly, I can feel that if I want to continue to deduce the cultivation technique, I will need to comprehend the power of the world. With the help of the world's origin, I will have to integrate the insights of the creation of heaven and earth into the Emperor Shocking the World book. Only then will I be able to break through the bottleneck and deduce the 10th, 11th, and even the subsequent cultivation techniques. The first 9 volumes of the Emperor Shocking the World book corresponded to the first transformation stage to the 9th transformation stage of the Monster Core. After the 9th transformation stage of the Monster Core was the Great Ancient Monster Realm, followed by the Ancient Monster Sage Realm. Ascending to the Ancient Monster Sage Realm was a hurdle, as well as an important transformation. That was the moment the Monster Core transformed into the Primordial Spirit. The Monster Core had gone through the 9 transformation stage, which meant that it had been tempered 9 times and had reached the perfect perfection stage. The next step was a qualitative transformation, where the Monster Core would condense into the Primordial Spirit. Once this step was taken, one would truly become the Ancient Monster Sage Realm. Di Shirtian had been secretly pondering over these years, and he had already vaguely guessed why he could only deduce the cultivation technique up to the 9th transformation stage when he comprehended the Tao under the Bodhi tree. That was because he did not understand his own body well enough, and his understanding of the world was not clear enough. The Emperor Shocking the World book was originally an Emperor Tao wondrous book. Unparalleled dominance. He was the creator, and only he had personally experienced the creation of heaven and earth, the creation of heaven and earth, and the creation of all living things. During the creation of heaven and earth, he had integrated the heaven-opening brand into the cultivation technique, and it was just like how the Monster Core transformed into the Primordial Spirit. Only by fusing them together could he break through all restrictions. And the more perfect the source seed of the world was, the more complete and profound his understanding would be when heaven and earth were created. No matter how difficult it was, he had to let the source seed transform to perfection this time. After listening to D. Shirtian's explanation, Dark's eyes lit up. Streaks of light flashed continuously in its two dragon eyes. It seemed to be calculating something. After a long time, he gritted his teeth and said, "Lunatic D, I have now become one with this eye of heavenly punishment and can no longer be separated from it. We are bound together for good or ill, and for good or ill. For the Emperor shocking the world book, I will give it my all." A fierce light flashed in its eyes, and it said decisively, "If I'm not wrong, this heavenly punishment divine eye is definitely related to the legendary heavenly punishment. If that's the case, then before I go through the tribulation, I will first upgrade the heavenly punishment divine eye. Let's add another innate divine restriction to the divine eye. At that time, it will definitely increase the power of the divine eye." At this moment, the nether prison in the heavenly punishment divine eye was 10,000 feet large. Inside, a large number of divine souls and demonic souls were imprisoned in the various levels of purgatory, and they were subjected to all kinds of punishments, interrogations, and countless secrets and cultivation techniques. The power of the soul was constantly released and merged with the heavenly punishment divine eye, increasing its power. Shirtian secretly focused his mind into the divine eye. He could clearly see that there were two innate divine restrictions in the divine eye. One of them was made up of countless talismans that gathered together to form a complete Huang Quan holy river. Countless talismans revolved and merged together perfectly. This was the innate Huang Quan divine restriction. The other one was made up of 5 different colored talismans that gathered together to form a 5-colored halo. It revolved continuously. However, there were very few yellow talismans among them. As it revolved, there were traces of flaws. This was the innate 5 elements divine restriction. However, it lacked the earth element among the 5 elements. This made the second innate divine restriction imperfect and flawed. Its power was greatly reduced. But even so, the heavenly punishment divine eye, with 2 innate divine restrictions, was equivalent to a mid-grade innate spiritual treasure. Once the 3rd innate divine restriction was born, its power would probably rise to the level of a superior grade innate spiritual treasure on the spot. Crazy D, last time in the monster realm, you devoured a large number of demonic beast souls. This time, you turned them all into divine soul energy and infused them into the divine eye. I don't believe that I can't make the heavenly punishment transform again after sacrificing billions of souls. Dark yelled fiercely. I also know that Myriad Tribulation's patriarch once obtained the remains of an imperial phoenix bird. The 3 divine lights must be in this cave. As long as we can get it, we can complete the earth element in the 5 elements plate and perfect the 5-color divine light, so that the second innate divine restriction can be born. There will be no more flaws. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 667. The 3rd update has been delivered. The eruption is over. Looking for monthly votes. Brothers who have votes, please support me. The divine eye of heavenly punishment was mysterious and unpredictable. It had accompanied D. Shirtian through countless dangers. All kinds of divine abilities were earth-shattering. Its power was so strong that it could almost destroy the world. Moreover, the most amazing thing was that the divine eye could continue to evolve. As it grew, it could be said to be a supreme treasure in the world. It could also create innate divine restrictions like innate spirit treasures. Just this point alone raised its value to the level of innate spirit treasures. All along, the divine eye had undergone 2 transformations. The first transformation was the birth of the Huang Quan holy river, which expanded the nether prison in the divine eye to a size of 10,000 feet. The second transformation was because it absorbed the 5 elements plate and obtained the 5 elements origin. The nether prison expanded again, and with the increasing divine soul power, It continued to expand until it reached a size of 100,000 feet. And 100,000 feet seemed to have reached the limit of the second transformation and could not be expanded anymore. Now, the nether prison had absorbed the souls of tens of millions of cultivators in the fallen god abyss. Later, it had absorbed billions of demonic beast souls in the demon battlefield. The entire nether prison was filled to the brim. At every moment, the divine soul power that was emitted caused the various layers of the nether prison to transform continuously, filling every inch of space. It merged into the divine eye. The Huang Quan holy river became wider and bigger as time passed. Di Shirtian silently felt for a while. After such a long time, the power contained in the divine punishment had almost reached the limit of what it could contain. He opened his eyes. He glanced down. He saw that among the hundreds of cultivators, only a few had broken through the encirclement of the ferocious beasts with their powerful cultivation and escaped. The rest of the cultivators had all died. Moreover, their flesh and blood had been strangely devoured. Only the thick smell of blood that filled the air was left. Hidden in the void, those ferocious beasts did not notice his trace and scattered in all directions. In the distance, there were waves of terrifying roars and sounds of killing. The entire heavens and the earth were filled with chaotic slaughter, the attacks of ferocious beasts, and even all sorts of slaughter caused by greed in the myriad of worlds. At practically every moment, a large number of cultivators perished on the spot. No matter what the myriad calamity Ancestor has set up in the cave, I can't do anything about it. Increasing my strength is the most important thing. Di Shirtian didn't participate in the slaughter at all. He didn't plan to fight with the other experts for those embryos. Compared to leveling up the heavenly punishment divine eye and leveling up the source seed of the world, everything else was insignificant. Humph! When my god eye transforms, I can open up my inner world, and I can finish deducing the extreme King's shocking book. If I want the universal device embryo, I will take it. I will take it. I am strong, and I am the king. Whoever dares to not give it to me will be mine. He took out the wine god gourd, opened the mouth, and poured out. Streams of spirit wine continuously poured out and condensed into a thick block of ice in the void. This wine was the phantom spirit concealment wine. Sitting cross-legged on the ice, wisps of wine continuously merged into his body through his pores, allowing him to hide in the void without showing any traces. Underworld, begin! Sakura slowly closed his eyes and focused all of his attention on the heavenly punishment divine eye. The purple mark on his forehead continued to emit bursts of divine light, spewing out a vast amount of pressure. His entire body was surrounded by the light of treasures, just like a god. 100,000 jailers, listen up. Send all the demonic souls into the Huang Quan Holy River. Nether roared loudly. Immediately, the 100,000 jailers in the nether prison began to move. The soul-retrieving chains in their hands tied up the demonic souls and kept pulling them into the Huang Quan Holy River. Once they reached the river, they pushed all the demonic souls in. Roar! Roar! The demonic souls of the demonic beasts let out shrill roars. Under Di Shirtian's control, the whole Huang Quan Holy River boiled completely and kept swallowing the demonic souls. The demonic souls collapsed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Countless pitch-black soul power spread out and drifted across the entire nether prison. The enormous energy kept growing in the heavenly punishment divine eye. As the demonic souls were constantly swallowed and digested, the energy in the heavenly punishment divine eye was accumulating, expanding, and condensing at an astonishing speed. Tempering, brewing. He was waiting for the moment of transformation. At this moment, in the myriad tribulations cave abode, countless killings were going on in the metal domain, wind domain, water domain, fire domain, and thunder domain. All kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and even embryos of heavenly and earthly artifacts, instantly magnified the greed in the hearts of countless cultivators. Driven by their desire, they fought with the demonic beasts. There were even killings and robberies. All kinds of gloomy scenes appeared one after another. Almost every moment, there were cultivators dying. Their flesh and blood were strangely devoured by the desolate domains. They disappeared without a trace. If anyone could see clearly what was going on inside the Myriad Tribulations cave, they would find that the heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and kidneys were glowing with a strange light, as if there was an independent world inside the Myriad Tribulations cave. Each of them was emitting a unique origin power. Apparently, they were where the 5 desolate domains were located. In the center of the 5 worlds, in the deepest part of the demonic dragon's body, a blood-red altar strangely emerged. In the altar, there was a huge mass of essence blood. The mass of essence blood kept rolling as if it was breeding endless calamities. The heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and kidneys were wrapped around the blood-red altar. From each of them, a stream of blood gushed into the altar. Suddenly, mysterious runes appeared on the surface of the altar. As if they were alive, countless mysterious sacrificial chants faintly sounded from the altar. As the blood water poured in, more and more sacrificial runes appeared on the altar. Every time a rune appeared, the mass of essence blood in the altar would fluctuate violently like a heart. If one looked carefully, it seemed to be constantly growing bigger. After absorbing the huge amount of energy in the blood water, it slowly began to transform. Unknowingly, countless runes began to revolve around the altar like stars. They were moving in a mysterious pattern, guiding a vast amount of energy into the altar. Not enough. Not enough. In the blood altar, a desolate roar seemed to spread invisibly. Roar. The huge demonic dragon hovering above the chaotic land roared again. Around it, tens of millions of cultivators gathered. The dragon opened its mouth and released a powerful suction force, swallowing tens of millions of cultivators in one go. Tion didn't care about this at all. His entire mind was completely immersed in the heavenly punishment divine eye. He saw countless devil souls being swallowed by Huang Quan Saint River. They were refined into the purest divine soul energy, gushing out and pouring into the nether prison. The 100,000 jailers could capture 100 devil souls each time. Almost in an instant, tens of millions of devil souls were sent into Huang Quan, refining them and emitting a vast amount of divine soul energy. This divine soul energy was so vast that if it was poured into an ordinary cultivator, it could instantly push him to the realm of an ancient giant. The vast divine soul energy filled every inch of the void in the nether prison. Good. I've finally reached my limit. He could feel the dense soul force that filled every inch of space. Tian's mind trembled. He felt that the nether prison was on the verge of transforming and upgrading. The nether prison was already on the verge of upgrading. Now, under the means of disregarding the cost, a huge amount of divine soul energy was continuously pouring into the altar. Suddenly, a shocking change occurred. The space of each nether prison, which was originally only 100,000 feet wide, suddenly shook violently. At the edge, large patches of nether prison were constantly being born in the void at a speed visible to the naked eye. The nether prison was expanding. It was expanding at an astonishing speed. Boom, boom, boom. Amidst the booming sounds, the entire nether prison violently opened up. In the blink of an eye, each nether prison expanded from 100,000 feet to 30,000 feet. The 19 nether prisons were clearly divided. The nether prison, which was originally crowded because of countless devil souls, suddenly opened up. The entire space was filled with a kind of gloomy aura. The jailers patrolled back and forth, looking extremely strict. Roar! Roar! In the nether prison, countless devil souls let out waves of shrill cries. Puff! Puff! In the 19th layer of the endless abyss, within that purple pool, a series of wardens dressed in purple armor and wielding soul-retrieving chains emerged from the pool one after another. The soul imprints that had been sent into the nether prison before were condensed into loyal jailers. They kept coming out. They quickly rushed into the nether prison, which had expanded several times. They whipped the devil souls in the prison. In the blink of an eye, there were 900,000 more jailers. Together with the previous 100,000, there were a total of 1 million jailers in the entire nether prison. Powerful. The heavenly punishment was even more powerful than before. Tion clearly felt that with the changes in the nether prison, the heavenly punishment divine, it was becoming more powerful at an incredible speed. It was several times stronger than before. Moreover, the feeling of boundless power filled his mind. After the nether prison expanded to 30,000 feet, it didn't continue to expand. Instead, it wantonly swallowed the huge amount of devil souls in the void and merged with it. The expanded nether prison was constantly stabilized, making the violently shaking void more tenacious. Rumble. The entire nether prison shook violently. Tion suddenly felt a strong sense of hunger in his mind. It was as if he had suddenly woken up from a deep sleep for thousands of years and wanted to swallow the whole world in one gulp. The devil souls, the huge devil souls. All jailers, listen to my order. Send all the devil souls into the holy river of Huang Quan. Even though Tion's mind was tough, he was tortured by the sudden burst of hunger and roared on the spot. He decisively issued an order. Soul power. It required endless soul power. He felt that a supreme treasure was about to be born in the nether prison. The prerequisite for it to be born was that it required an extremely huge amount of devil souls. Otherwise, this treasure wouldn't be able to be born. Without the supreme treasure, the divine, I would not be able to produce the third innate divine restriction. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 668. Soul Power. I need a huge amount of soul power. Even if I have to consume all the divine souls in Nether Prison, I have to get this soul power. The Yellow Spring Sacred River, the 5 Elements Plate, and the third Supreme Treasure. If I don't get the Supreme Treasure, how can I create the third innate divine restriction? It's worth it to upgrade the divine eyes of heavenly punishment, no matter how big the price is. Hunger. An unprecedented hunger. This kind of hunger was completely emitted from his body, from his soul, and from every strand of his will. He had almost never experienced this kind of feeling before, and it faintly made him feel as if he was going crazy. But in this madness, his mind was also operating with an unimaginable calmness, and he instantly deduced the reason why this kind of thing was happening. The heavenly punishment divine restriction was going to upgrade. This was not just about expanding the nether prison, but also about creating an innate divine restriction. Only by creating a divine restriction could there be a qualitative transformation. And the divine restriction was closely related to the supreme treasure that was created in the nether prison. If the supreme treasure couldn't be created because of the lack of divine soul power, Tion would even have the thought of destroying the world. If there were no more devil souls, he could still catch, absorb, and plunder them in the future. The heavenly punishment divine, I, and I have merged into one. Its upgrade is the upgrade of my strength. Wealth is wealth when used. If you hold it in your hands, it will only depreciate. All the devil souls shatter for me. Millions of prison guards obeyed Tion's order and pushed countless devil souls into the Huang Quan Holy River. As the nether prison expanded, the Huang Quan Holy River also transformed, becoming longer and wider than before. Its power was also greater. Countless devil souls were constantly refined by the Huang Quan, emitting a huge amount of divine soul power. Every time, hundreds of millions of devil souls were refined. This was a complete refinement. Even a soul brand would not exist, and in the future, they could not rely on the soul brand to turn into prison guards. They were truly and completely dissipated. Rumble. The nether prison was constantly being consolidated. The originally expanded area suddenly became solid, and the space was unbreakable. At the same time, the 19 layers of the nether prison shook violently. Countless rainbow-colored strands of spirit power emerged from the void and quickly gathered in the 19th layer, the Avicii underworld prison, above the purple underworld pool. For a moment, it was as if there were countless fireflies flying around, rendering the nether prison into a dreamlike fairyland. It was incomparably gorgeous and magical. At the same time, the heavenly punishment divine, I seemed to be connected to a mysterious place in the underworld. Waves of strange power appeared from the void and also gathered in it. In the intense circulation, boundless divine light burst forth. In an instant, it caused Sakura's entire mind to involuntarily be in a state of emptiness and emptiness. He was unable to sense what exactly happened in that instant within his divine eye. Heaven and earth went silent. Just as everything returned to normal, Tion hurriedly sent his mind into the nether prison to investigate. He couldn't help but be dumbfounded. A simple octagonal platform appeared in the sky above the nether pool. Countless mysterious characters appeared on the surface of the platform. Countless hideous and terrifying images were constantly changing, giving off a mysterious glow. And on the high platform, there was an ancient bronze mirror. On the bronze mirror, ancient runes intertwined as if they were alive. They formed a profound principle. On the ancient and mysterious platform, a few ancient seal characters appeared. Karma mirror. Hiss! After sucking in a breath of cold air, Ming couldn't help but laugh wildly. Huh, there are no good people in front of the karma mirror. I didn't expect it to be born this time. The yin-yang mirror on the karma mirror can determine life and death. It has two sides, yin and yang. The yin side is white, and the yang side is red. The white side means death, and the red side means life. With the power of the yin-yang mirror, it is enough to suppress those arrogant and unruly people. This is a supreme treasure that can suppress the nether prison. The karma mirror? Tion couldn't help but be overjoyed. He had a deep impression of the karma mirror. In his previous life, he had heard many legends about it. It was rumored that the karma mirror had infinite power. The bronze mirror hanging on the platform was called the yin-yang mirror. It was formed by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Any soul that reached the karma mirror would be illuminated by the yin-yang mirror, and its appearance would be revealed. It would be shown in the mirror. It couldn't be hidden at all. In fact, this was not the power of the karma mirror. It was because people from young to old had sinned heavily in their lives. However, people were also spiritual beings. They knew what they had done. As the saying went, they knew it well in their hearts. They remembered all the sins of their lives in their hearts. Knew it well in their hearts. Their hands and feet acted. Without Li Xian's instructions, after the body died, the soul would come to the karma mirror. The karma mirror was formed by yin and yang. When it came into contact with the soul, it could reflect the sins of a person's life. There is a saying in the Buddhist scriptures, all laws are born from the heart. It could be seen that its power was immeasurable. Eight-armed demon god, suppress it. When Ming saw the appearance of the karma mirror, he was overjoyed and could not help but want to test its power. He immediately cast the mirror at the soul of the eight-armed demon god, who was at the heavenly demon realm and could not find a way out. He was trapped in the infernal prison, wandering in the endless dark abyss, unable to find a way out, and constantly sinking. Whoosh! The surface of the yin-yang mirror hanging on the karma mirror emitted a strange white light and shone toward the sky demon. Originally, he was wandering in the endless darkness, enjoying the endless loneliness without sound, objects, or anything. Looking at the unchanging darkness, even he couldn't feel the existence of time. It seemed like an instant, but it also seemed like billions of years. Even his consciousness gradually began to become blurry. His consciousness gradually dissipated. He was afraid that after a period of time, he would even forget who he was. At this moment, in the darkness, a pale white divine light fell directly from the void, instantly covering his entire body. His entire body was pulled into the divine light by a mysterious force. The scene in front of him changed, and he appeared in front of the ancient karma mirror. Before he could wake up, Countless seal scripts appeared in the karma mirror and turned into iron chains that bound him and pulled him in. The entire sky demon was brought into the mirror on the spot. An invisible force suppressed the entire mirror. Suddenly, a picture of the eight-armed demon god roaring at the sky appeared on the surface of the mirror. It was suppressed. Boom, boom, boom. The karma mirror trembled, and countless mysterious talismans emerged from the mirror and disappeared into the void. This is the third innate divine restriction. Di Shirtian, whose mind was immersed in the divine eye of heavenly punishment, was aware of every change inside. As soon as a change occurred, he immediately saw that in the depths of the divine eye's core, there was a Huang Quan holy river formed by countless talismans. A five-colored halo formed by the talismans of the five elements appeared again, and countless red and white talismans once again appeared and spiraled together. The talismans combined on their own and condensed together. There were a total of 123,600 talismans, and as if they had a life of their own, they merged together perfectly and magically condensed into an ancient bronze mirror. A perfect aura emanated from it, and there was not the slightest flaw. The third innate divine restriction was born, the innate divine yin-yang restriction. At this moment, the purple-gold eye between Di Shirtian's brows had unknowingly opened on its own. In the eye, it was like an ancient emperor's, with endless indifference and coldness as it stared at the world. Ripples flickered on the surface of the eye, and a vast, majestic aura emanated from it, causing the surrounding void to freeze. Without any movement, the space itself could not withstand the terrifying pressure and began to distort strangely, as if it were about to collapse and be destroyed. The entire divine eye exuded a mysterious aura. Whoosh! After a long time, the divine eye slowly closed, and its deep gaze looked into the void, as if to make an announcement to the entire world. From now on, the divine eye of heavenly punishment will have two more divine abilities: life and death. Karma mirror. His brows were brimming with confidence. The karma mirror had been born during heavenly punishment's upgrade. The third innate divine restriction was born, and two new divine abilities were born for heavenly punishment. Life and death contains the power of yin and yang and emits a divine light. Yin is white, and when it shines on one's lifespan will constantly wither. When one's lifespan reaches its end, one will completely die. Yang is red, representing life. When it shines on one's lifespan will instantly increase and continue to increase. Even if one's lifespan is depleted, one will be reborn, regaining one's lifespan. The power of this divine ability was heaven-defying. It was simply a reversal of life and death. Karma mirror. When the divine light shines on one's body, endless karma will be triggered, and one's mind will be trapped in one's own karma mirror. If one is unable to see through it, one will be entangled by endless karma, igniting karmic fire, and suffer the pain of being burned by karmic fire. In the end, one will be burned to ashes. Even one's soul cannot escape. For a time, the divine eye of heavenly punishment had 7 divine abilities: soul capture, illusion break, annihilation, heavenly punishment, 5 colors, life and death, and karma mirror. Each of them was comparable to an unparalleled divine ability, and their power had reached an unbelievable level. Every single one of them possessed boundless power. They could kill people of the same level on the spot. Dark laughed madly. Although you're only at the 8th transformation stage of Yao Dan realm, with the power of heavenly punishment divine eyes alone, you can easily kill a demon saint with ease. Wearing the ultimate emperor mask and raising your cultivation level, you can even fight a heavenly demon head-on with the divine eye of heavenly punishment. Lunatic D, now you're truly not inferior to those peerless prodigies of a younger generation who have been groomed by various factions for many years. When you cultivate the source seed of the world to perfection, open up your inner world, and deduce the subsequent cultivation techniques of the Ultimate Emperor World Shocking Book, you will advance to the 9th refinement stage. You will reach the peak of the ancient demon. At that time, you will be a peerless prodigy. He felt the power of the divine eye of heavenly punishment increase greatly. There were 3 innate divine seals in it. However, Tion did not become blindly arrogant because of this. He said calmly, although the heavenly punishment divine eye has leveled up, to activate the divine eye, compared to before, the consumption of true power is much greater. Even with my current 8th transformation demon core true power, I can only activate it 3 times before it is completely exhausted. I can only use it as my trump card, the killer stream. Cultivation level is the foundation. Thank you, brother, 9 netherworlds beyond heavens for the reward. I am now a guardian. Thank you. I will try to use it again in 2 days. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 669. Of course, if he really wanted to activate the heavenly punishment divine eye, it was not impossible. As long as he burned a large number of heaven origin pills and released a large amount of innate essence chi, he could still activate it. However, every time he activated it, he would consume at least 1,000,000 heaven origin pills. He would not do this unless he had no other choice. 1,000,000 heaven origin pills was enough to nurture an ancient great demon. It was too wasteful to burn it all at once. Even if he had money, he should not give it out like this. Good things should be used on the blade. In the demon city, there were still a large number of subordinates who needed heaven origin pills to cultivate, especially the 4 legions directly under him. The Green Phoenix sword servants. Every month, every one of them was given 10 pills a day. They were told to do their best to improve their cultivation. The number of heaven origin pills consumed every day was not small. Even the trillions of heaven origin pills inherited from Z, you would be completely used up one day. When a man achieves the Tao, his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. This sentence was not just a saying. It required a huge amount of wealth. However, Tion had never been stingy with things like heaven origin pills as long as they were used to improve his strength. If he had to use them, he would use them. If he hid the pills in the treasury, would he want them to rot? There are 3 innate divine restrictions, and there are still flaws in the innate 5 elements divine restriction. However, even if there are 3 divine feathers of the Emperor Phoenix bird in this 1,000 calamity cave abode, we can't get them now, let alone know where they are placed. If we want to perfect it, we can only wait and see. Tion looked around. The surroundings seemed to have fallen into a rather quiet scene. There were no cultivators around. It seemed that they had been slaughtered by the fierce beasts, or they had run to other places. However, looking at the ground, a large number of precious materials had been plundered clean. There were also countless terrifying traces of fighting. Listening carefully in the distance, there were roars of fierce beasts and loud rumbles. Dazzling spells and magic treasures were blooming with brilliant light. The air was filled with a thick smell of blood and a tragic aura of slaughter. With a wave of his hand, the life altar appeared in front of him again. Looking at the altar, the source seed of the world that was filled with Tao, spirituality, and mysterious patterns was still placed in the center. It was as if that seed was the most perfect life in the world. There was a unique world inside. It made one's mind sink into it involuntarily. The rippling rays of light. It even gave him a hint of spirituality. This was the most brilliant star in the world. Today, I want to borrow the power of the myriad tribulation cave abode. Success or failure, it all depends on this. Tion didn't hesitate at all. The heavenly punishment divine, I had already completed its upgrade, and the 3rd innate divine restriction was born. It was almost equivalent to an upper grade innate spiritual treasure. The final trump card had already been prepared. As for the rest, there was nothing else worth thinking about. If he succeeded, he would obtain the only perfect world seed in the world. If he failed, the heavenly punishment would instantly destroy the source seed, and he would suffer unimaginable damage. Even the source seed of life that he had invested in would be wasted in an instant. The loss was so great that even a peerless expert would turn pale. Life was a gamble. If he didn't gamble, how would he know the final result? Now that he was in the myriad tribulation cave abode, even if the heavenly punishment came, there would be the myriad tribulation cave abode to resist it. This was also the land of chaos. It could be said that he had the advantage of time and place. Under such circumstances, if he didn't dare to take the risk, he might as well go back to his woman's side. If he had to make a decision, he had to make a decision. Don't say that a woman's heart is tied to a man's body. Source seed of life. After silently looking at the life altar for a moment, he waved his hand again. One by one, the source seeds of life that were emitting a dense aura suddenly appeared and were embedded on the altar. Under the altar's conversion, they turned into a huge amount of life energy and surged into the world seed. When the seed touched the source seed, it was like seeing the most delicious food. It greedily devoured it. As if it had turned into a bottomless pit, it started to devour wantonly like a taotai. A huge amount of life energy surged in. This advancement would require no less than 100,000 source seeds. This amount almost instantly caused the source seed of life in Di Shirtian's body to shrink by at least 1/3. Boom, boom, boom. The life altar kept shaking. One could see that the world seed in the center was emitting rays of crystal, clear divine light. The light was filled with a mysterious Taoist rhyme. It was as if it was becoming more and more perfect and was transforming into a flawless state. It was like the world's most perfect work of art, without a single flaw. However, as the source seed of life was transforming into the most perfect state, it was also triggering the laws of heaven and earth. It was as if it was going against the heavenly Tao and the will of heaven and earth. All of a sudden, some mysterious laws were triggered. It was as if the entire heaven and earth felt that something that shouldn't exist was being nurtured and born. There was no absolute perfection in the world. If it was too perfect, it would be envied by heaven. Even in the myriad tribulation cave abode, even in the land of chaos, a strange place that wasn't originally part of the source continent, it couldn't escape the senses of heaven and earth. The perfect Taoist rhyme that was emitted by the source seed of life was simply unstoppable. It instantly triggered heaven and earth. Crack! Boom, boom, boom. Almost instantly, countless pitch-black clouds appeared out of nowhere in the sky above the land of chaos. Billions of lightning bolts shuttled through the clouds like lightning dragons, colliding with each other and creating resplendent booms. The vast pressure almost instantly covered the entire land of chaos. In the fringe, all kinds of disasters seemed to be unable to withstand the terrifying pressure. The gales stopped blowing, the lightning stopped flashing, the storms stopped erupting, the poisonous gases hid themselves deep in the ground, and even the flames were no longer as violent as they usually were. It was as if even the disasters could feel the terrifying aura that filled heaven and earth. The aura was so heavy that it almost crushed the entire heaven and earth into dust. At this moment, countless ferocious beasts lay on the ground without any hesitation. Their bodies kept trembling as they let out trembling sounds. They looked at the sky in fear. The heaven and earth were covered in boundless darkness. Other than the countless lightning bolts, there was no light at all. It was extremely tragic. The invisible pressure could make any expert collapse. It was as if they had seen the most terrifying existence in the world. It was brewing a destructive power. The pressure almost instantly fell on the body of the 10,000 feet long demonic dragon. Boom, boom, boom. Under the heavy pressure, the void around the demonic dragon became strangely distorted. Moreover, it was a distortion that was clearly visible to the naked eye. It was like the waves in the water, moving up and down in layers. The invisible pressure directly penetrated the demonic dragon's body and fell into the 5 desolate domains in the cave abode. The vast pressure could even imprison heaven and earth. It filled the entire heaven and earth. In an instant, countless ferocious beasts and cultivators in the 5 desolate domains felt as if the space around them had suddenly frozen. Even moving was abnormally difficult, as if countless mountains were pressing down on them. What's going on? Pressure. This is the pressure of heaven and earth. Who exactly caused such a terrifying pressure of heaven and earth? Could it be that someone is undergoing a tribulation here? Heavenly Tao. What kind of tribulation can be so terrifying? It actually caused the entire heaven and earth to be imprisoned. This is too terrifying. A large number of cultivators felt the drastic changes in the heaven and earth around them in horror. This is the pressure of heaven and earth with the aura of a tribulation. However, even the ancient giants can't provoke such a terrifying pressure of heaven and earth. What's going on? Could it be that some earth-shattering supreme treasure has appeared? Or is someone breaking through the ancient giants and becoming an unparalleled expert, breaking free from the shackles of heaven and earth? Is someone going against heaven and earth? Some outstanding experts started to think frantically in their minds. No, this seems to be heaven's punishment. Could it be that something has triggered heaven and earth and incurred heaven's jealousy? Even heaven and earth can't tolerate it and wants to send down heaven's punishment to destroy it? Terrifying. Who exactly is it? What's going on? Some of the sharper ones immediately noticed something unusual and immediately started to make wild guesses. Especially in the metal domain where Di Shurtian was, the vast pressure was even more obvious. Countless ferocious beasts hid themselves, and the life altar emitted a dazzling divine light under the infusion of a large amount of life force. Dense chi intertwined together, stirring up heaven and earth. The crystal-like radiance was unusually eye-catching in this world filled with metal. Almost the entire heaven and earth saw the dazzling divine light in an instant. Moreover, the pressure seemed to be gathering there. As long as one wasn't a fool, one would know that this strange pressure of heaven and earth was caused by it. This is heaven's punishment. Who could make heaven jealous? Heaven and earth can't tolerate it. Tens of thousands of miles away from Sakura, Xianming's body was cold. The netherworld ghost lamp on his shoulder emitted beams of light to resist the pressure outside his body. After pondering for a while, Xianming walked towards Di Shurtian. There's a treasure. A heaven-defying supreme treasure has appeared. Perhaps it's a primordial spiritual treasure. Otherwise, it wouldn't have attracted heaven's punishment. Come, let's hurry over. Maybe we can get some benefits. Hey Tong, who wore a black robe with golden edges, smiled strangely. He waved the folding fan in his hand and led a group of He Sha's subordinates over excitedly. At the same time, a large group of experts also rushed over. Boom! Boom! Then, in the sky above the chaotic lands, countless pitch-black clouds began to swirl strangely, forming a deep vortex. The vortex condensed and split into two halves. Suddenly, as if a sleeping god had opened his eyes, a gigantic purple-gold eye appeared in the sky above the chaotic lands. Within those eyes, countless purple bolts of lightning rippled like flowing water. They carried an incomparable majesty and even an indifference that disregarded everything. To be continued. If you want to know the rest, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 670. No emotions could be seen in this purple gold eye, as if it could ignore everything in the world. It couldn't make it feel pity at all. If the heavens had feelings, the heavens would also age. Even if the heavens and earth were annihilated in front of it, this I could still look on indifferently. I have heavenly punishment? Who is it? Who has the ability to provoke the wrath of the heavens? Could it be that someone has done something that angers the heavens? Or could it be that some treasure that cannot be found in this world has appeared? Even the heavens are jealous and want to destroy it. In a land of chaos, it wasn't that there were no experts. In the void, the experts who had merged with the void with the help of the inner world were all forced out of the void. Among them, there were the figures of Know-It-All and the demon monarch. Seeing the terrifying scene that appeared in the void, even with his vast knowledge, he couldn't help but let out a cry of horror at this moment. Could it be that Ancestor one, set up some killing trap in this cave? Now that the trap has started to work, it attracted the attention of the heavens and earth and attracted heavenly punishment? No, it's impossible that Ancestor one, doesn't know how terrifying heavenly punishment is. He definitely wouldn't provoke such a terrifying existence. Could it be that there's some kind of earth-shattering change in the Immortal's cave? A look of astonishment appeared in the demon lord's demonic eyes. If I'm not wrong, there's a high chance that some heaven-defying treasure is born. TSK, let me hear it. Know-it-all said with a strange cry. The ears hidden under his messy hair started to tremble strangely. If anyone could see, they would discover that behind his big ears, there were pairs of even smaller ears. In total, there were 6 ears on each side. Not only was it not strange, but it had a mysterious aura. It seemed to be listening. Unfortunately, even if there's a treasure, it will be destroyed by heavenly punishment. The demon monarch raised his head and looked at the cold purple gold eye. Even he didn't dare to look directly at it, and instantly withdrew his gaze. There were many experts who were forced out of the void by heavenly punishment. At their level, they naturally knew that the appearance of heavenly punishment would be accompanied by a treasure that even the heavens and earth would be jealous of. But in the eagerness, there was a trace of regret. Under heavenly punishment, even if a treasure was born, it wouldn't be able to escape the judgment of heavenly punishment. He was afraid that it would be destroyed to the point that not even dregs would be left. Boom, boom, boom. Inside the demon dragon's body, the mysterious blood altar shook violently, swallowing all the blood around it. Within the altar, the huge mass of blood essence wriggled violently, as if it had a life of its own. It quickly gathered together, and in the blink of an eye, a head could be seen strangely condensing. Below the head, neck, torso, hands, and feet. Everything was miraculously condensing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths of time, suddenly, a young man who looked less than 20 years old and was nearly 2 meters tall appeared clearly on the altar. In between his eyebrows, there was a flame-like golden trident mark. There seemed to be boundless terror contained within that mark. It exuded a majesty that could annihilate heaven and earth. Heavenly punishment? An old voice suddenly roared out from the altar. Which bastard dares to come to my cave abode and provoke the heavenly punishment? Bastard! Damn it! How dare you use me as a tool? The roar was filled with a rage that could crush millions of lives. In the anger, the blood altar shook continuously. However, it seemed that he had some misgivings, or perhaps there were other reasons. Although he was so angry that he wanted to destroy heaven and earth, he didn't really do it. Blood essence, a huge amount of blood essence, damn it. Damn it, heavenly punishment actually appeared at this time. When I, the Spinulosa, am reborn, let's see if I can't punch a hole in the sky. The roar echoed in the cave abode, but the unusually angry blood altar had no choice but to remain silent after shaking for a while. Quick, lunatic emperor, heavenly punishment really did appear. The eye of heavenly punishment, it really is the eye of heavenly punishment. If the world source seed wants to be promoted to perfection, it will indeed be envied by the heavens. Heaven and earth can't tolerate its birth. Block it, you must block it. I'm sure that as long as the world source seed is nurtured to perfection, it will open up an inner world that will contain an unparalleled, miraculous treasure. An unparalleled, miraculous treasure. This heavenly punishment, you must block it. Otherwise, all the previous efforts will be in vain. When Ming saw the heavenly punishment's aura descending, he couldn't help but shout nervously. There seemed to be a kind of power in the unseen world because of Sakura triggering the heavenly punishment. When he raised his head, he could actually see through the body of the 10,000 feet long demonic dragon and see the cold eyes hanging in the void. The appearance of the eye of heavenly punishment appeared clearly in his eyes. What a terrifying heavenly punishment! Although the myriad tribulations cave abode was blocking outside, the aura emitted from the heavenly punishment poured down on him. It was as if there were thousands of heavy mountains pressing down on his head. The surrounding space was constantly being annihilated, constantly evolving and constantly collapsing under the pressure. If it wasn't for the fact that his treasure body had just formed, his bones were incomparably tough and indestructible, and his demonic body alone was as strong as a demonic saint's. In front of the heavenly punishment's aura, even his demonic body would instantly collapse and be crushed into meat paste. The ultimate emperor mask. The purple gold mask covered his face, and a mysterious power surged into his body from the mask. His cultivation immediately rose, and he broke through from the 8th transformation to the 9th transformation, the peak of the great demon. He activated the 8 desolation steps. Bang, bang, bang. Indra lifted his foot and took a step forward in the air. Ripples appeared beneath his feet, as though there was a vast stairway to heaven in the air. The instant he took a step forward, there was a miraculous trajectory, and after the first step, the second step contained the same might as the first step. The royal true force within his body was completely ignited as it went berserk. His aura rose inch by inch. After the second step, he immediately took the third step. Ripples appeared with each step, as if he was going to ascend to the sky step by step. This was a secret technique, a kind of combat skill. However, this combat skill could be said to be powerful when one's cultivation was low, and it could instantly increase one's cultivation. The higher one's cultivation was, the weaker the effect of this secret technique. But at this moment, as a great demon, after taking 3 steps, the berserk true force had instantly pushed his strength to that of an ancient demonic saint. However, he didn't stop because of this. The source seed of the world nurtures the inner world, the outer world, and the inner world. The inner world is the foundation of the strong. Boom! The 4th step was taken. I want to open up a world. The more perfect the world seed is, the more comprehensive and profound my understanding will be, and the more perfect the ultimate emperor's shocking book will be. The 5th step was taken, and a majestic power surged in his body. Dishurkian's expression was cold. Those who don't incur the jealousy of the heavens are mediocre. So what if the heavens punish me? Whoever dares to block my path, I will repay them 100-fold. Every time Dishurtian said a sentence, he would take a step forward. His aura continued to rise, and his aura transformed bit by bit. He took the 6th step, and the majestic power raised his cultivation to the ancient heavenly demon realm in the blink of an eye. Countless divine lights burst out from his body, and there was a deep darkness in the darkness. The endless emperor's aura suddenly resisted the pressure of the heavens and the earth. He stood proudly in midair, blocking the life altar beneath him. Behind Dishurtian, there was a faint sound of dragons and tigers leaping. It was a bizarre scene. The tiger soul saber on his back kept shaking in the scabbard, and it made an intense, vibrating sound. It seemed to be stimulated by the outside world, and it wanted to leave the scabbard in an instant. Crack! The eye of heavenly punishment, which was hanging in the void, seemed to be able to feel the resistance from Dishurtian's body, as if it was provoked by an ant. Without any hesitation, endless heaven and earth yuan chi quickly gathered in the eye, turning into countless purple electric lights. They kept flashing and condensed into 100-foot-long purple divine thunder that blasted downward. In the divine thunder, there was a domineering will that judged the heavens and annihilated everything. This thunder was the heavenly punishment divine thunder. It carried the will of the heavens and the terrifying divine thunder that judged everything. Damn it, bastard! How dare you cultivate the perfect world seed in my cave abode? Damn it, damn it! If I can move now, I'll chop you up first, you little tiger cub. A roar came from the depths of the cave abode, and there was unimaginable anger in that voice. Roar! The 10,000-foot-long demonic dragon that was hovering in the air suddenly opened its eyes, and there was a dazzling light in its eyes. It let out a dragon roar, and every dragon scale on its body emitted a mysterious divine light that rippled like water. The dragon shook its body, and a vast dragon power swept through the entire chaotic land. It was as if it had come to life in an instant. staring at the heavenly punishment divine thunder. There was a look of madness in its eyes. A vigorous black dragon claw slashed across the void, tearing it into pieces, and endless dragon power gathered in the claw. It slammed its claw toward the heavenly punishment divine thunder. Bang! The black light and the purple gold light intertwined in the void, violently surging. The fierce collision caused the surrounding space to collapse on the spot. Destructive power poured out, erupting into countless earth, fire, water, and wind. A vast amount of power burst forth. All of a sudden, the surrounding space exploded one after another. The terrifying power blasted the 10,000-foot-long demonic dragon back tens of thousands of feet. Large pieces of dragon scales on the dragon claw were damaged on the spot, and they fell off. Puff, puff, puff. At the same time, some of the weaker supremacies in the chaotic land, who had reached the eternal overlord realm, were swept by the aftershock. Their bodies seemed to have been struck by lightning, and they could not help but spit out mouthfuls of blood essence. There was a look of horror on their faces. Just the aftershock alone had injured an eternal overlord. The heavenly punishment, divine thunder, is indeed a terrifying power that even the legendary, unparalleled overlord cannot resist. Ming couldn't help but gasp when she witnessed this scene. It's fortunate that the myriad tribulation abode is here to block it. Otherwise, those divine lightning would have struck me. My God, those Exalt Realm experts would have been blasted into pieces if they were struck head-on. Even the scales of this 10,000-foot-long demonic dragon that had killed several unparalleled overlords in the ancient times had fallen off. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 671. He couldn't help but rejoice inwardly. If Sakura was the one who went to resist it, then Ming didn't dare to imagine what would happen next. Perhaps he would have been blasted to smithereens by the divine lightning. Ha! However, he immediately burst into wild laughter. That old bastard Myriad Tribulation must be so depressed that he wants to vomit blood right now. You're the one who provoked the divine punishment, but he has to help you block it. Even in the ancient times, no one dared to do this. With his bad temper, he must be so angry that his nose is about to be crooked. Delightful, too delightful. In this world, was there anything more delightful than watching one's opponent suffer without being able to vent his anger? Thinking about it, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was Myriad Tribulation Ancestor's sworn enemy in the past. But now, he was hiding in his cave and asking his old enemy to block the divine punishment for him. This scene was even more delightful than eating countless immortal pills. However, Lunatic D, it seems that old bastard Myriad Tribulation didn't die. Instead, he hid in this cave and set up some kind of trap. I'm afraid this trap is set up for him to recover. TSK, TSK. This guy must have suffered an incalculable injury in the ancient times. He's just a centipede that wants to climb out again. Dark's eyes flickered with the light of wisdom. He cried out, "Look at how desperately he's absorbing the blood and flesh." It seems that this old bastard built the blood altar in the ancient times. He left a bit of essence blood and primordial spirit in the altar. He wants to borrow the power of the blood altar to be reborn from the ashes. Don't be afraid of this guy. He won't be able to climb out of the altar for a while. We must take advantage of this time to plunder all the good things in this cave. In the future, that old bastard Myriad Tribulation will die from anger. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. However, Sakura wasn't as optimistic as it was. His eyes quietly looked at the eye of heavenly punishment hanging in the sky. When that eye saw that the mystic dragon had actually blocked the divine thunder that it had sent out, it suddenly seemed to have suffered an inexplicable provocation. More and more yuan chi of heaven and earth was swallowed by it like a tide. Pucci. This time, it was no longer divine lightning that fell from the eye of heavenly punishment. Instead, it was a purple gold divine light filled with destruction. It was like a divine pillar that reached the heavens as it heavily struck down at the demonic dragon with a speed countless times faster than lightning. Although the divine light didn't destroy the void where it passed, it was still very powerful. However, the power contained within it caused the expressions of the know-it-all, the demon monarch, and the other experts to change. Inside, they felt a will that could annihilate everything in the world. Damn it, damn Junior of the demon race. You actually want me to clean up after the trouble you've caused? Despicable, despicable. When I am reborn, I will definitely not let you off. Damn it, in my current state, I can't unleash the full power of the demon dragon. A roar came from the blood altar. Infinite restrictions erupt for this ancestor. The 10,000 feet long demonic dragon let out a terrifying dragon roar once again. Countless mysterious talismans suddenly burst out from the countless black dragon scales all over its body. They flew into the air and formed a powerful restriction. In the blink of an eye, billions of restrictions intertwined with each other. It was unknown how many layers there were, but it directly weaved into countless restriction barriers. Countless restrictions wrapped around the demonic dragon. Bang, bang, bang. The divine light fell and collided with the restrictions. Instantly, a powerful collision erupted. Every restriction was quite powerful. However, in the face of heavenly punishment, under the power of annihilation, the restrictions were shattered into pieces. Like glass, they kept crumbling. This is Tian's pupils contracted violently. He squinted and said, "Annihilation divine light." No one in the world knew better than him about that divine light. It was the annihilation divine light that was derived from the eye of heavenly punishment. It had the supreme power to annihilate everything. It had always been one of the methods Tian used to overcome many calamities. Now, when it was used by the eye of heavenly punishment, its might had reached an inconceivable level. The more he looked at the eye of heavenly punishment, the more he felt in his heart that his divine eye must have an indelible connection with heavenly punishment. Perhaps it was an eye of heavenly punishment that had been captured and refined into this miraculous divine eye. The myriad calamity cave abode may not be able to withstand heavenly punishment. The only thing that can overcome the calamity is this divine eye. Success or failure depends on this one move. No matter what, I have to give it a try. Tian had never thought of relying on the myriad calamity cave abode to withstand heavenly punishment. Heavenly punishment was too overbearing. Although the cave abode was powerful, it could not compete with heavenly punishment without being able to control it. It would not take long for it to be blasted open. He did not put his hopes on it. What he wanted was to buy some precious time for the myriad calamity cave abode. Below him, in the life altar, the source of life kept flowing into the life altar. They turned into a huge amount of life essence and quickly poured into the world seed. As time passed, the world seed began to have more and more charm. It was constantly transforming. It was transforming toward perfection. Time was needed for the world seed to transform. Once the transformation was complete, even if the world was jealous and the seed had transformed, it meant that there was a reason for its existence. The heavenly punishment would disperse. Once the transformation was complete, the heavenly punishment would disperse. This was a kind of test from the world. Now he had to try his best to let the seed absorb as much power as possible. A large amount of source of life essence collapsed into life essence. However, at this moment, in the realm of metal, a few experts rushed over. The one who was the closest was the black demon young master, Black Pupil. The moment he arrived, he stared at the life altar. He couldn't help but be stunned for a while. However, after being stunned for a while, he laughed wildly and greedily. Tiske, what a rich life essence. So many life source seeds, and you actually use them to refine an altar. A world seed? A world seed that is transforming to perfection. No wonder it attracted heavenly punishment. A perfect world seed, a supreme treasure that has never appeared in the world. If I can get my hands on it, I will become a true almighty in the world. The source of life essence was too easy to identify. He could see at a glance. Moreover, with his intelligence, he could immediately guess why it attracted such a terrifying existence like heavenly punishment. I must get it. At this moment, this was the only thought in Black Pupil's mind. A world seed? A perfect world seed. Heavens, that is a true priceless treasure. In the world, there are only a few high-grade world seeds. Every person who obtains one is a supreme expert in the world. If one has a perfect world seed, wouldn't they be able to reach an unimaginable realm? They would have the chance to become the ruler of the world. Who is this black-clothed man? I have seen him before. I have seen that mask before. That is the ultimate emperor mask that only Demon Emperor D. Shirtion has. Could he be Demon Emperor D. Shirtion? So what if he is a demon emperor? For the perfect world seed, even the heavenly emperor will kill him. As the experts gathered, D. Shirtion was recognized on the spot. Although his identity as a demon emperor was quite intimidating to the world seeds, even if a supreme expert was in front of them, they would still kill him, let alone a demon emperor. All of them looked at the life altar with burning eyes. It seemed that as soon as the world seed finished its transformation, they would immediately start to snatch it. In front of a supreme treasure, everything was insignificant. Once they snatched it, it would be theirs. Humph! Sakura naturally saw the expressions in the eyes of the surrounding experts clearly. Towards that thick greed, his eyes were filled with ridicule, but he didn't care about it. The only thing in front of him was heavenly punishment. As long as he could survive heavenly punishment, he would not be afraid of these so-called elites. Peerless sky pride. Bang! Bang! The restrictions in the Thousand Calamity Cave were as dense as clouds. Although the Annihilation Divine Light broke through half of them, it was still forcefully worn out by the restrictions. Whoosh! However, the second Annihilation Divine Light fell again, penetrating all the restrictions at the same time and shattering them. Terrifying cracks appeared on the demonic dragon's countless dragon scales. Bastard! With a furious roar, the demonic dragon's body was instantly blasted into a large hole, directly penetrating into the metal extinction domain. The eye of heavenly punishment could directly see D. Shirtion and the world seed's figures. Crack! The cold eyes looked at D. Shirtion, and the heavenly punishment divine light fell again, directly blasting towards him. It looked like it was going to blast him into smithereens. A boundless amount of chi poured out and pressed down like an avalanche. The crowd of cultivators who gathered around suddenly felt as if countless terrifying mountains were pressing down on them. Their entire bodies made cracking sounds, and beads of blood seeped out of their pores. Just the pressure alone was enough to cause countless cultivators to lie flat on the ground. They looked at the cold eyes in fear. Humph! You want to suppress me? Even heavenly punishment can't. D. Shirkin's tiger eyes narrowed. His body moved, and he used the seventh step of desolation. The royal true force in his body instantly went berserk, turning into endless mighty force. The purple mark between his eyebrows spewed out a domineering aura, as if he was the only one in the world. Eye of heavenly punishment. Open. The purple mark opened to both sides, and suddenly, a purple gold eye opened. In the eye, there was an indifferent look filled with endless majesty. It was like an ancient emperor looking down on the world. You want to blast me into pieces? Even heavenly punishment can't. D. Shirtion roared crazily in his heart, and divine light flashed in his eyes like stars. He coldly looked at the heavenly punishment divine light that was rapidly bombarding toward him. However, the moment he opened his eye of heavenly punishment divine light, a strange light flashed in the cold eyes that hung high in the void. The divine lightning miraculously dissipated just as it was about to hit D. Shirtion. It inexplicably turned into nothingness. The destructive heavenly punishment that was brewing was forcefully stopped. The huge eye coldly stared at D. Shirtion. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 672. What's going on? Why did the heavenly punishment lightning suddenly dissipate? Shouldn't it have blasted D. Shurtion into smithereens? Could it be that a powerful expert helped to block it? That's impossible. Even an unparalleled expert wouldn't dare to face the heavenly punishment head-on. Could it be that D. Shurtion is really the heavenly fate demon emperor? Even a heavenly punishment lightning would mysteriously dissipate. Does he have the protection of the heavens? Or is he the reincarnation of an unparalleled demon god from an ancient demon clan? Monster. He's really a F** king monster. Could it be that this monster has hooked up with the heavenly punishment? The group of cultivators, who were lying on the ground under the pressure of the heavenly punishment, couldn't help but be stunned when they saw that the divine lightning had strangely dissipated just as it was about to hit D. Shurtion. They couldn't help but be a little dumbfounded. They simply wanted to beat their chests and stamp their feet. They couldn't believe it. Could it be that this demon emperor has really hooked up with the heavenly punishment? Ha ha! Ming laughed and said, "That's great. Your divine eye is indeed closely related to the heavenly punishment. Maybe that old guy who had nothing to do took an eye of heavenly punishment and refined it. Hurry up and hook it up. Maybe you can make the eye of heavenly punishment go easy on you and easily pass through this heavenly punishment. You can even get a perfect world seed." The originally worried thoughts were all thrown to the back of his mind. All this time, he had been suspecting whether the eye of heavenly punishment had any connection with the legendary heavenly punishment. Now that he saw it, how could he be excited? These two must be closely related. Maybe he could rely on this to easily pass through the heavenly punishment. D. Shurtion responded slightly. His eyes were already quietly staring at the heavenly punishment above his head. Although the previous attack had strangely disappeared, anything could happen in this world. How could he pin his hopes on an illusory guess? Therefore, he didn't completely let down his guard. The vast and majestic royal true force in his body was constantly shuttling through every inch of his flesh and blood. Below him, in a life altar, a large amount of life essence was being devoured by the world seed. His ice-cold eyes stared at Sakura quietly. The air was filled with a kind of dignified aura, as if he was hesitating about something. All of a sudden, the originally calm eye of heavenly punishment was filled with endless purple mist, creating countless ripples. A vast and mighty power surged within the eye. Whoosh! Almost instantly, a beam of purple divine light shot out with boundless might. It slammed down and crossed the boundaries of time and space in an instant. It appeared above D. Shurtion's head. Not good. Lunatic D. This is the heavenly punishment divine light. Dark, who had been excited, was stunned. She stared in shock at the divine light that was shooting straight towards her. He screamed in shock. Heavenly punishment divine light. Once the divine light fell, one's cultivation base would instantly drop. It wasn't just the power of one's cultivation base, but also one's understanding of the realm and the great Tao. All of them would drop. If it fell, it would really fall. Even if he had pills, he wouldn't be able to recover. Heavenly punishment, strike down to the mortal realm. This was the terrifying portrayal of the heavenly punishment divine light. Even though Sakura was prepared for it, he did not expect that the attack that came one after another would be the most overbearing and terrifying divine light of heavenly punishment. Moreover, the attack that came from the eye of heavenly punishment was many times faster than when he used it himself. In almost an instant, it had already landed on his head. Heavenly punishment guard. Innumerable thoughts flashed through Sakura's mind in an instant. There is almost no good way to resist the heavenly punishment divine light, but he also made a decision in an instant. With a thought, the eye of heavenly punishment opened between his brows. Countless rays of purple divine light shot out like a water curtain, covering him in divine light. In an instant, it was as if he was draped in a purple gold emperor's robe. He naturally exuded a vast and majestic aura. Whoosh! The heavenly punishment divine light came too quickly. It didn't give him any chance to dodge. Almost in an instant, it fell on him and completely enveloped his entire body in the purple heavenly punishment divine light. It was like a divine pillar that reached the sky. The most terrifying thing was that Di Tian's protective divine light. It was instantly dispersed by the heavenly punishment on the spot. The heavenly punishment divine light fell on him and directly brushed into his body. In the past, the heavenly punishment divine light had always been used by Di Tian on others, constantly brushing away the opponent's cultivation and Tao, knocking the enemy down to the mortal realm. Even the crown prince of the heaven realm imperial dynasty suffered a great loss. He was beaten down by a realm. It could be said to be successful in every endeavor, a heaven-defying divine ability. But now, when it fell on him, he truly experienced the terrifying and domineering power of the heavenly punishment divine light. The divine light brushed past. His whole mind trembled violently. Faintly, even his divine soul was about to be brushed away and shattered. The 8th grade black lotus in the demon mansion in his body emitted waves of dense divine light. At this moment, the demon refining cauldron that was suppressing the demon mansion completely erupted. On the cauldron, countless mysterious runes emerged like ants. The demon refining cauldron. It spun violently and emitted countless mysterious rays of light, firmly protecting the 8th grade black lotus in the cauldron. The mystical power of the heavenly grade demon mansion was completely revealed at this moment. In the demon mansion, one could see a purple heavenly punishment divine light appear out of thin air and sweep towards the demon refining cauldron. Rumble. With this sweep, Di Tian felt the entire demon mansion tremble violently under the divine light, as if it was about to collapse under the divine light. Moreover, the divine light went directly towards Di Tian's inner core, which was the 8th grade black lotus in the cauldron. It brushed against the demon refining cauldron on the spot. In an instant, it collided with the jade cauldron divine light. In an instant, the purple light brushed against the jade cauldron. Boom, boom, boom. Hold on. Dark saw this and shouted anxiously. The demon refining cauldron was indeed worthy of being a heavenly grade demon mansion's most precious treasure. Even a heaven-defying divine light, like the heavenly punishment divine light, collided violently with the 8th grade black lotus in the cauldron in an attempt to bring down its cultivation level. The demon refining cauldron spun violently with a jade-color vortex. The vortex trembled violently under the heavenly punishment divine light, causing the entire demon mansion to shake violently. It was as if it was about to collapse, but it forcibly blocked the divine light outside the cauldron, holding on in a stalemate. Puff. Even so, Di Tian's qi and blood were in turmoil, and a mouthful of blood rushed to his throat. The demon mansion was where his life was intertwined with his cultivation. The trembling of the demon mansion was akin to shaking his foundation. Good, it's blocked. A heavenly grade demon mansion is indeed a heavenly grade demon mansion. It's no wonder that in ancient times, not many demons were able to establish one. It's indeed endlessly mystical. Dark was overjoyed. The demon refining cauldron was truly miraculous. It could even block a divine light like the heavenly punishment divine light. It was indeed worthy of its peerless reputation. However, it seemed that it was too early to be happy. The heavenly punishment divine light failed to break open the demon refining cauldron this time, and 3 more beams of divine light swept toward the jade cauldron. Bang, bang, bang. With the power of the eye of heavenly punishment, even peerless powerhouses would have to avoid its sharpness and not easily block it. Even though the demon refining cauldron was extraordinary, the 3 beams of divine light swept over one after another. Vast and mighty power surged, wave after wave. When the 3rd beam of divine light swept over, the divine light emitted by the demon refining cauldron collapsed on the spot. The jade cauldron, which had been spinning violently, suddenly stopped. The divine light rushed directly into the cauldron. It swept over the 8th grade black lotus in the cauldron. And Tion let out a muffled groan, and his face suddenly paled. It's really the heavenly punishment, divine light. The moment the divine light shone on the 8th grade black lotus, he clearly felt that the royal true power in the black lotus was violently surging at a speed visible to the naked eye. It quickly turned from a liquid state to constantly disintegrate. It was as if it was going to completely melt under the divine light. The royal true power was almost a power that was cultivated with one's life. Even if there was a slight change, he could clearly feel it. How could the true power be hidden from his eyes when it was disintegrating? An indescribable fear rose in his heart. Cultivators were not most afraid of death. What they were truly afraid of was having power. But one day, the power in their body suddenly disappeared without a trace, and they became an ordinary person. Such a drastic contrast was enough to drive a powerhouse to the brink of collapse in an instant. Now, even with Tian's strong will, countless fearful thoughts involuntarily appeared in his mind. Could it be that I will also be beaten down to the mortal world? In his mind, a strange thought emerged uncontrollably. In front of the heavenly punishment divine light, even if he had thousands of methods, he couldn't use them. Countless images emerged uncontrollably. When he was just reincarnated, starting from the birth of Tiger Hill mountain range. His mother, younger brother, and younger sister were kidnapped. Tianxiang's imperial heavenly treasure box changed his fate in an instant. He left Tiger Hill and went to the southern wilderness. He cut through countless thorns together to find his younger sister and save his mother. However, he didn't know where his younger brother was. All kinds of fortuitous encounters, all kinds of hardships. Like a tide, they kept flashing in his mind. In just an instant, it was as if he had once again experienced life. If it was an ordinary person, at this moment he would have collapsed. However, when the experience of this life flowed in his mind, Tian's heart emerged with a determination to die. He said madly in his heart, "So what if it's the heavenly punishment divine light? Even if the realm is beaten down and the cultivation is brushed away, I'm still me. I can cultivate to this realm. Even if I really fall to the mortal world, I can still climb up again. As long as I don't die, there is hope." In his heart, an incomparably persistent belief emerged. In his eyes, the light that shot out carried unprecedented confidence. In his eyes, that belief seemed to be transforming into a supreme will. His mind was placed in the demon mansion. The imperial true force in the 8th grade Black Lotus was collapsing at an incredible speed. No. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 673. To celebrate the birth of the first Alliance leader, beyond heaven of the Netherworld. Haha, I'm too happy today. I won't say anything else. Let's see if I can explode tomorrow. Almost at the moment when the divine light of the demon refining cauldron was broken, Tian had already prepared himself for the worst. In front of the eye of heavenly punishment, which even the most powerful experts could not resist, it was almost impossible to turn the tables after being shrouded by the divine light. If nothing went wrong, his cultivation of the 8th transformation stage of the Yaodan transformation stage would be wasted in an instant. However, just as he was about to make the necessary preparations, a voice suddenly rang out. When he poured in the changes in the demon mansion in his body. With this look, he could not help but be secretly stunned. In his heart of despair, a look of shock and disbelief emerged. That's not right. My cultivation and realm. Why haven't they been reduced? In an instant, Tian immediately noticed an abnormal situation. His mind suddenly became excited. Under the illumination of the heavenly punishment divine light, his cultivation and realm did not decrease at all. His understanding of the heavens and earth, his understanding of the great Tao, and the imprint of the power of desire, not only were they not reduced, they were not shaken at all. It was as if the heavenly punishment divine light had no effect on him at all. But the Huangji true power in his body was really dispersing under the divine light. That's not right. The Huangji true power did not really dissipate into nothingness. It's actually merging into my level 8 Black Lotus and physical body. What's going on? With this careful inspection, various effects that were completely different from the heavenly punishment divine light appeared in his mind one after another. The Huangji true power that was surging under the divine light did not really dissipate into nothingness. Instead, it was strangely merging into the level 8 Black Lotus. The level 8 Black Lotus, which was already like a solid lotus body, strangely emitted bursts of bright divine light. It was constantly becoming stronger and transforming into a solid body. On the surface of the Black Lotus, there were faint waves of crystal-like light rippling out. Indistinctly, the level 8 Black Lotus was undergoing an incredible transformation. The Huangji true power was constantly decreasing, but the level 8 Black Lotus was constantly becoming stronger. Furthermore, a huge amount of Emperor True Force was drawn out from the Black Lotus by the divine light. It directly rushed out of the demon palace and into the crystal-like demon veins in his body, where it continuously rotated. This enormous amount of Emperor True power was not transported within the body, but directly rushed into the Emperor True apertures within the demonic veins. Every demon vein had 9 Imperial True acupoints opened. Di Shirtian had already completed 7 scrolls of the shocking Imperial Book. In total, he had opened 63 apertures. As for the 8th scroll, he was halfway through. He had opened 3 apertures in his 8th Demon Meridian. He had opened a total of 66 Royal True apertures in his body. Back then, when he was in seclusion, he used the chi of true dragons that he had plundered to form 36 Dharma idols. In other words, there were still 30 aperture acupoints in his body that were still empty and had no Dharma power to suppress them. What was strange was that this time, the Emperor True power that had surged into his body seemed to be guided by the heavenly punishment divine light and consciously rushed into the empty aperture acupoints. Boom, boom, boom. The aperture acupoints trembled violently, as if they were splitting the heavens and earth apart. The enormous amount of Emperor True power was poured in, and under a mysterious force, it was rapidly condensing and rolling at a speed visible to the naked eye. His entire aperture was boiling and vibrating as a vast amount of true power poured into it. In that empty aperture, a pitch-black figure with a pair of wings on its back and densely packed tiny dragon scales condensed in an instant. It was entrenched in the aperture, suppressing the 4 extremities. Moreover, after condensing one Dharma power, it immediately rushed into the next Emperor True aperture. With the support of the enormous amount of Emperor True power, Dharma idols were rapidly condensed. What's going on? Isn't this the divine light of heaven's punishment? When it lands on the body, it will deplete one's Tao and Dharma powers. Why would it draw your true power into your acupuncture points and use it to form a Dharma idol? Oh my God, to use true power to form a Dharma idol, this consumes a lot of true power. That's really exhausting. There's no way to recover it. Extravagant, too extravagant. This is condensing Dharma power on the basis of reducing your own cultivation base. In your rank 8 Black Lotus, what's going on? Is your true power refining the Black Lotus? What's going on with this divine light? What is the eye of heavenly punishment trying to do to you? At this moment, even Ming could not figure out what was going on. The Emperor True power in Di Shirtian's body was indeed decreasing. Moreover, this consumption was not something that could be recovered on its own. It needed to be accumulated through continuous cultivation in the future. However, his cultivation base was not affected. Moreover, the consumption was constantly being integrated into the rank 8 Black Lotus. Almost every moment, he could feel that his rank 8 Black Lotus was transforming at an unbelievable speed. On its surface, there were strands of black, crystal-like light. This made Di Shirtian think that even if he used a divine weapon to hack at the Black Lotus, it would be difficult to damage it. This black lotus was tough and tyrannical to an unimaginable realm. Once it completely transformed into a physical body and condensed into a black crystal-like black lotus, it would not be just an inner elixir. If it left the body, it would be able to directly suppress experts to death. If this black lotus was that strong, it would definitely be something that would shock the entire universe. Foundation establishment. A thought appeared in D. Shirtian's mind. Suddenly, he felt that the eye of heavenly punishment did not seem to want to attack him and beat him down to the mortal world. It seemed to be helping him to build his foundation, to build a supreme Tao foundation. The Emperor true power in his body condensed into a Dharma power, to refine his black lotus. The more Dharma power he condensed, the more beneficial it would be for his demon body. Almost every Dharma power condensed would make his demon body stronger. The Dharma power could automatically absorb the infinite chi of heaven and earth to nourish his physical body and strengthen his flesh and blood. It had an irreplaceable effect on the transformation of his physical body into an immortal body. The black lotus was formed from the inner elixir and was the foundation of his body. In the future, it would transform into the Tao foundation of the primordial spirit. The stronger the foundation, the greater the chance of climbing to the peak in the future. This was like building a building. The more solid the foundation, the more stable the building would be. The black lotus was transforming and refining. This was simply building a supreme Tao foundation for him. Moreover, at the same time, he could clearly feel that the space in the black lotus, which could accommodate the Emperor true power, was constantly expanding. It was bigger than before. What did this mean? It meant that his strength would be far greater than other experts in the same realm. What was this? This was a foundation. Foundation establishment? F*CK. This is a new Tao foundation for you. Oh my God. Huh. Madman D. Even though you've encountered many fortuitous encounters in the past, you're an extraordinary genius, and you've cultivated a peerless technique, but your true form is only a little black tiger that rose up in the mortal world. Moreover, when you cultivated, you only absorbed the acquired chi. Your foundation is not as strong as it was in the ancient times. I didn't expect heaven's punishment to help you rebuild your Tao foundation. With this Tao foundation, I'm afraid your foundation is so deep that it's not inferior to those peerless geniuses of the ancient times. In the ancient times, those experts who grew up in the Khanate Chi world were probably born with Khanate bodies. Their physical bodies were strong, and their Tao foundations were deep. It was difficult to compare in the future. Di Shirtian's Black Lotus in the past, although magical, was not perfect. In terms of sturdiness and its own characteristics, it was not very stable. Moreover, the energy was too strong, so it was inevitable that the foundation would be unstable. Now, heaven's punishment was helping him repair and rebuild his Tao foundation. This kind of opportunity was almost impossible for ordinary people in their lifetime. Although the price of rebuilding the Tao foundation was based on the foundation of the Emperor True Power. However, compared to the Supreme Tao Foundation, the Royal Highness True Chi was nothing. No matter how much true power was consumed, it could be replenished with heavenly primary pills in the future. Oh no! Suddenly, Ming seemed to have thought of something, and her tone changed as she cried out, "If you utilize all your imperial true energy to condense the Dharma idol and establish the supreme foundation of the Tao, then how will you deal with those bandits that are eyeing you with hostility? The perfect world seed is so tempting that even peerless experts will be tempted. They will rush over and kill you. One must know that outside of him, there is a group of greedy wolves surrounding him. The desire in his heart had already been aroused. Once Socration's power disappeared, he would probably be torn into pieces by those greedy wolves on the spot. The world seed. The perfect world seed. Who could resist that kind of temptation? Moreover, the most important thing was that the rebuilding of the Tao Foundation meant that his true power would be completely consumed. Without true power in his body, even if he had half an immortal body, his demonic body would be as strong as a demonic saint. His own strength would be reduced by countless times in an instant. Given the current situation, it was definitely extremely dangerous. Not to mention whether or not he could protect the world seed. He might not even be able to keep his life. That was a big problem. Tian heard Ming's worry and snorted. His eyes were cold, and his killing intent rose. If they want to rob me, they have to first see if they have the confidence to die. Even if he really lost all his true power, it would not be easy to take advantage of him in this world. Other than the Emperor's true power, he had more than one trump card. If he was really angered, he would use his killer move, and he would not be afraid of anyone. If anyone dares to have any ideas about me, I will blast them to smithereens. He was not afraid of the true power in his body being consumed. Instead, he felt that it was a rare opportunity. It's good that I have used up all my Emperor true power. I can use this opportunity to rebuild and recultivate the Emperor's shocking world book. This way, the true power that is born will be stronger and purer. This time, even if I don't get the Khanate spiritual embryo, I will be able to establish the supreme Tao foundation. This is enough to make up for everything. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 674. A cold, murderous intent flashed through his heart. Anyone who wanted to take advantage of him would be courting death. Did they really think that without the royal emperor true power, he would be bullied by others? With Old Tiger's authority, whoever dared to be greedy for the world seed, he dared to blast them into smithereens. Tian was immersed in the transformation of his body. The originally vast royal emperor true power was rapidly depleting. In this short period of time, more than half of the true power in his body had already disappeared. Moreover, the speed of this depleting was still increasing. Within the 66 royal emperor true apertures, one after another, Dharma idols were condensed. In the blink of an eye, 53 Dharma idols had been condensed. Once these Dharma idols were condensed, they immediately began to devour the vast primordial chi around him. They transformed all the primordial chi into their own pure primordial chi and poured it into the surrounding flesh and blood, constantly strengthening the power of every inch of the flesh and blood. He could clearly feel that his demonic body was growing at an inconceivable rate. Every Dharma idols would cause his flesh and blood to undergo a drastic transformation. A dense treasure light was emitted from every pore on his body. It flowed on the surface of his body and intertwined into a strange flowing light. It naturally revealed a formless majesty. The power that was emitted faintly contained a trace of the emperor's aura of the ancient emperor. The demon palace in his body was expanding rapidly, continuously expanding in all directions. Moreover, the space that was opened was abnormally stable and incomparably sturdy. The heart in his body, if anyone could see it now, was actually emitting bursts of purple-gold halos on the surface of the heart. Lines of noble purple-gold lines were constantly appearing naturally, intertwined together, as if they contained a mysterious principle. It was actually gradually transforming into purple gold. Moreover, on the heart, there were many strange holes that were concave in a strange manner. There were a total of 7. Just like the 7 apertures of a living creature. Along with the rise and fall of the heart, wisps of dense chi were emitted from these 7 apertures. Streams of blood flowed out from the heart. Originally, the blood had already transformed once, becoming golden in color, with a hint of purple gold faintly. Purple gold blood? Even his blood was filled with the noble aura of an emperor. In the Tao refining cauldron, the grade 8 black lotus glowed even more brightly. It was no different from a physical object. Furthermore, it was like a black crystal black lotus. On the black lotus, mysterious runes were constantly emitting strange brilliance. Inside the black lotus, the 4 talismans continued to absorb the boundless primordial chi. Vaguely, they became like real talismans. Within each talisman, there were 123,600 runes condensed and formed. Within these 4 talismans, there was a faint trace of will that was constantly brewing. Once a will was born, the 4 talismans would undergo an inconceivable transformation. What the hell is this heavenly punishment doing? Why didn't its divine light blast Shurtion to death? But I'm stuck in midair. What's going on? My goodness, it's been 15 minutes. Even a peerless expert can't withstand the heavenly punishment for such a long time. Could it be that he's really hooked up with the eye of heavenly punishment? The cultivators who were still lying on the ground under the pressure of the heavenly punishment all looked at the figure standing proudly in the air in shock. Countless guesses appeared in their minds. However, when he saw that the life altar was becoming more and more round, and that the world seed seemed to have returned to its original state, greed once again ignited in his eyes. A world seed, a perfect world seed. This was a supreme treasure that was comparable to a connate spiritual treasure. Precious, too precious. It was so precious that it had never appeared in the world. Even though there were many geniuses around, they still couldn't help but have a strong urge to take it for themselves. Once the world seed completes its transformation, I'll immediately snatch it. With my cultivation as an immortal emperor, I don't believe that I can't get it. Once I get it, it'll be easy to escape. Black Pupil's eyes were about to emit green light. He looked at the seed as if he wanted to swallow it. There were many people around who had the same idea as him. However, the eye of heavenly punishment's strange behavior also attracted the attention of many people. It was really strange that it only sent down divine light and no other means of heavenly punishment. They couldn't help but be suspicious. Time passed slowly. Under the pressure of the eye of heavenly punishment, every second felt like thousands of years. There was no need to talk about the suffering. Whoosh, whoosh. After a long time, the divine light from the eye of heavenly punishment disappeared instantly. At the same time, Shurtion gently exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and opened his eyes. In his eyes, 2 rays of purple gold light shot out and pierced the air in front of him, making a loud sound. He raised his head and looked at the void. The cold eye of heavenly punishment seemed to have a strange color. It continuously scanned Shurtion's body, as if it was hesitating about something. However, the world seed on the life altar completely devoured all the life essence in an instant. The entire seed turned into a chaotic color, as simple as an ordinary stone. It didn't reveal any aura. It also didn't emit the so-called treasure light of an ordinary treasure. Whoosh! Seeing that the source of the world had completed its transformation, the eye of heavenly punishment glanced at it and hesitated for a moment before it disappeared. The dark clouds that were hanging in the void also disappeared instantly. In a land of chaos, all kinds of disasters that had been suppressed by the heavenly punishment suddenly erupted in a way that was 10 times or even 100 times more intense than before. They rampaged wildly on the ground. Roar! The suppressed body of the demonic dragon suddenly curled up. It roared, and its body emitted divine light. Between heaven and earth, a huge amount of primordial chi surged into the demonic dragon's body and quickly repaired the damage that it had suffered. The hole that was blasted open was quickly mending. In almost the blink of an eye, it was completely restored. Suddenly, the connection between the outside world and the golden domain in the cave dwelling was cut off. It became an independent world again, forging the supreme Taoist foundation, breaking before establishing. My foundation can be considered to have been completely established. Shurtion couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. In his body, in each of the 66 acupuncture points, a Dharma form was formed. In the 8th rank Black Lotus in the Monster Mansion, the range that it could hold the royal true power had expanded by more than 10 times. Moreover, the Black Lotus emitted a crystal light and was so tough that it wasn't inferior to any treasure. However, at this moment, in the Black Lotus, there was only a wisp of purple gold royal true power floating continuously. Even though it was only a strand, It was the first strand of royal absolute true power that was born from the Black Lotus after all the royal absolute true power in his body had been exhausted. It was pure and powerful, and was comparable to 10 times the amount of true power in the past. The Black Lotus rotated clockwise in his body. In the void, the vast primordial chi of heaven and earth and the power of desire were continuously swallowed by the Black Lotus like a tide. Following the transportation of the Book of Shocking the World, after 9 revolutions, it was absorbed into the Black Lotus and condensed into a wisp of royal true power. Now, the royal true power that was condensed was not in a liquid state, but in a gaseous state. If he wanted to refine it into a liquid state, he estimated that he would need about 10 wisps to condense a drop of royal true power. And every wisp of royal true power was equivalent to 10 drops of royal true power in the past. In other words, the current true power was no less than 100 times more condensed and pure than before. From this, one could see how high its quality was. It had probably reached an unimaginable level. However, this also meant that if he wanted to reach the peak of the 8th rank of Monster Core, he would need to expend 100 times or even 1,000 times more energy than ordinary cultivators. But once he cultivated to the peak of the 8th rank of Monster Core and filled the 8th rank Black Lotus with true power, his strength would be 100 times or even 1,000 times more than ordinary cultivators. In terms of continuous combat power, he would be even more powerful. His physical body would be strong and reach the peak of the ancient demon saint. Just his physical body alone would be comparable to an ancient demon saint. After a quick inspection of his body, only a blink of an eye passed. When he opened his eyes, he waved his hand without hesitation and put away the life altar in front of him and the perfect world seed on it. Put down the seed. Just as Sakura put away the seed, on the spot, a middle-aged man wearing a black robe and wearing a ferocious mask unique to Heisha opened his mouth and scolded, waving his hand. Great Darkness Palm. A pitch-black, giant palm that contained the will of the great darkness condensed above Di Shirtian's head. The palm was incomparably dark, as if it wanted to devour everything, including all the light in the world, turning the world into a world of darkness. They had come without a sound. It appeared above his head almost instantly. Immortal Emperor? Di Shirtian narrowed his eyes and glanced coldly. A strong, killing intent surged in his heart. He thought to himself, good timing. I was thinking of finding someone to be the chicken and kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Since you want to jump out and rush to die, I will be the one to kill you. In his body, a supreme majesty surged. When he saw the surrounding cultivators, he knew that there was no way to be kind. Since there was no way to be kind, there is only one way to deal with those who were greedy. Beat them. Beat them to death. He wanted to use supreme methods, and the most domineering method, to intimidate the minds of the surrounding cultivators and scare them out of their wits. He wanted to let everyone know that if anyone dared to have any ideas about him, then let's see if they had the life to be greedy and if they had the life to enjoy such a supreme treasure. What did you say? A threatening cold light shot out from Sakura's eyes, and a unique, overbearing aura of supremacy rose from his body. He completely ignored the great darkness palm that was slapping down from the top of his head, and his right hand landed on the slender hilt of Tiger Soul without any warning. Bang, bang, bang. He used the 8 desolation steps. Clang. Extreme Monarch Emperor Wei, Devourer of the Tao Tai. Sorry, I was delayed by something today. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 675. 8 Desolation Steps. Every step he took shook the void. Under the power of this unparalleled combat skill, the boundless heaven and earth yuan qi in the surroundings surged into his body like a tidal wave. In an instant, it turned into a vast and mighty emperor true force. It emerged from his body. For a moment, his originally exhausted body was once again filled with a vast amount of energy. One step, another step. After taking 7 steps in a row, the boundless energy from the surroundings turned into a ferocious long river, roaring and rolling crazily in his body with a violent aura. It was full of powerful, destructive power. So what if the Emperor's true force in his body was exhausted? Not to mention that his cultivation realm was not reduced. Even if it was, he would not be easily humiliated by anyone. If he wanted to fight, he would have to be prepared to die. Tion did not hold back the vast amount of true force in his body that was condensed by the combat skill. In an instant, all of it was poured into the Tiger Soul saber. The Tiger Soul was instantly unsheathed, drawing a brilliant arc of light outside his body. The power of the devouring Tai was instantly poured into the saber. Suddenly, a mysterious concept emerged from the saber. Boom, boom, boom. A giant Tai that was 3,000 feet tall was instantly condensed from the saber and appeared in midair. As soon as the Tai appeared, it immediately opened its huge and terrifying mouth and swallowed the great dark palm above its head. The great dark palm that was cast by the immortal emperor could not resist the Tai at all. The devouring Tai could devour all kinds of energy. It could only enter and not exit. The energy contained in the great dark palm that was devoured was instantly refined by the Tai and poured into the Tiger's soul. The dazzling saber light was like a lightning bolt, slashing directly at the middle-aged immortal emperor who jumped out from the Black Fiend. The sharpness of the saber cut a huge crack in the void. Black Fiend Pearl. The middle-aged immortal emperor was also shocked by Tian's sharp counterattack. When he saw the terrifying saber light sweeping towards him, he quickly summoned a pitch-black pearl. On top of it, dense, baleful chi filled the air and hung above his head, blooming with boundless, baleful light. A large amount of baleful chi formed a black mist, protecting him within it. Within the black fog, countless baleful blades, baleful swords, and baleful halberds appeared and danced in the air. Anyone who approached them would be instantly turned into dust. Oomph! A mere slave dares to shout at I. You deserve to die. Tion said coldly. As he spoke, Tiger Soul had already appeared in front of the thick black fog. Countless sabers and swords danced and swept towards Tiger Soul, but they were swallowed by the Tai above Tiger Soul without any hesitation. It opened its mouth wide, and with a howl, even the Black Fiend orb was swallowed. The Tiger's soul instantly slashed down with an earth-shattering aura. Amidst the blood-curdling screams, blood spurted into the air like a fountain. The arrogant immortal emperor was cut into 2 halves by Tiger Soul. The thick smell of blood permeated the air and quickly spread in all directions. The saber light was tyrannical, as if an emperor was enforcing the law. It shook the stars and split the sky open. This slash was so sharp and simple that it was terrifying. The saber light was so fast that most of the cultivators in the surroundings couldn't even see it clearly before it ended. When they looked again, the immortal emperor who had just provoked them was cut into 2 halves by the saber. The dazzling blood-red light caused all the cultivators' pupils to constrict violently. Sakura's decisive killing, iron-blooded and overbearing means. At this moment, the cultivators in the surroundings who were ready to make a move were stunned. Move! The tiger's soul in Indra's hand was pointed downwards. On the tip of the blade, drops of blood were continuously dripping down. His gaze swept across the surroundings and swept across the faces of the cultivators. That gaze was as sharp as the blade. Some of the weaker cultivators' expressions changed, and they hurriedly shifted their eyes away, not daring to meet his gaze directly. Those who were about to make a move couldn't help but stop for the time being. Celestial Emperor. That was a Celestial Emperor. He was only one realm away from the eternal overlords. Such an expert was considered a mainstream expert in the myriad worlds and belonged to the middle class. Every one of them had their own strong points. In other places, any one of them would be an expert who could suppress a region. However, such an expert was killed by Tion with a single slash of his saber. Even his divine soul was devoured by the tiger's soul. It could be said that his body and soul were destroyed. Although they were shocked, they were shocked. However, it didn't disperse. However, an invisible deterrent force continued to spread in the surrounding air, causing the surrounding atmosphere to become abnormally tense all of a sudden. It was extremely oppressive. Haha, Your Majesty, Demon Emperor. Black Pupil opened the folding fan in his hand and looked at Tion. He didn't take the death of his subordinate to heart at all. Previously, when he signaled his subordinate to stop Tion, there was no lack of intention to test him. He wanted to see if the heavenly punishment had caused any damage to him, and even how strong his true strength was. Tion's blade-like gaze instantly fell on Black Pupil's face. Even though Black Pupil had the cultivation of an immortal emperor and his identity was incomparably noble, he still felt a terrifying pressure directly on his body. There was a faint feeling of suffocation. However, he was no ordinary person. He waved the folding fan in his hand slightly and pushed the pressure to both sides. He smiled faintly and said, "The World Seed just now can be said to be a supreme treasure, unparalleled in the world. I'm a little happy to see it. I don't know if you can let me have a look and see it. It's also an eye-opener. Moreover, there are many fellow cultivators here, and we are all from the younger generation. We should have a good exchange. I believe that everyone here is very curious about the seed in your hand." As he spoke, traces of cold light flashed in his eyes from time to time. Obviously, if he didn't take it out, he intended to force Tion to stay. Moreover, in his words, he didn't hide the many cultivators around him at all. He wanted to borrow the momentum. He wanted to borrow the momentum of thousands of experts in front of him to put pressure on Tion. Yes, quickly take it out and show it to us. The treasures of heaven and earth belong to those who are virtuous. We all witnessed its birth with our own eyes. Logically speaking, we all have a share of the world seed. We can't let him go. The world seed, the perfect world seed, such a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. How can a mere demon have it and deserve to have it? Hand over the treasure. In an instant, there were a lot of people who agreed. His eyes emitted the light of a wolf. That greedy desire instantly occupied his entire mind. In his mind, if he could get the world seed, what kind of unparalleled fortuitous encounter it would be. It was as if there was a ball of fire burning in his heart. Tion glanced at Black Pupil as if he was looking at an idiot, disdain clear in his eyes. He turned around and strode away. The power in his body was obtained by using the 8 desolation steps. It couldn't be used again after it was used up. That slash just now almost used up all of his true power. At this moment, in his body, just like in the beginning, there was only a little bit of true power left. It was just an empty shell. How could he be willing to stay here any longer? He wanted to take advantage of the power he had just established to escape with the fastest speed. Otherwise, once he was entangled, it would really be troublesome. At this moment, after establishing the Supreme Tao Foundation, he planned to find a place to use a large amount of heavenly origin pills and spiritual wine to increase the royal extreme true power in his body. Then, he would consume the world seed and open up his inner world. He didn't have the time to dawdle with these guys. Stop. Black Pupil's expression changed. The trace of disdain in Tion's eyes was directly reflected in his eyes. He couldn't help but feel a surge of evil fire in his heart, and he couldn't help but scold him sternly. Humph, you're courting death. When Tion heard this, his body that was originally turned around suddenly turned around. He snorted coldly and didn't leave at all. Instead, he turned around to face Black Pupil. A strong killing intent appeared in his eyes, and his body carried a cold aura. He directly charged towards Black Pupil with a loud bang. His body directly collided into the void. The tyrannical demon body instantly shattered the space in front of him on the spot. This was simply using the physical body to smash the space, and the surrounding space shook violently. Inch by inch, it was annihilated. Kill, kill, kill. Humph. Since killing one isn't enough to deter you, then I'll kill 2. If 2 isn't enough, then I'll kill 3. Kill, kill, kill until you're afraid. If I don't show my power, you really think I'm a sick cat. Tian's anger grew in his heart, and his body was overflowing with a vast killing intent. Like an ancient fierce beast, he directly swept towards Black Pupil. His eyes were fixed on him. Black Pupil, the one who jumped out just now, was his subordinate. Did he really think that he didn't know? Originally, it was fine to kill the chicken to scare the monkey, but now, again and again, he provoked him. If he didn't kill him, he really would think that he was a big shot. Lunatic D, that's how it is. Kill, kill, kill. Be strong, you must be strong. Ming also shouted fiercely, beat them until they're afraid, beat them until they're terrified. Whoever dares to provoke you, directly kill him. Otherwise, if you let these guys see through you, I'm afraid that even your bones will be swallowed up by them. You must break their courage. In the face of provocation, you must fight back, and you must be extremely strong. The more you give in, the more people will think that you're lucky. Today, I'll trample you to death. Tian's cold heart contained endless anger. His body directly broke through the void, and with the ferocity of an emperor, he domineeringly crossed the void and appeared above Black Pupil's head in an instant. He didn't even want to use the tiger soul in his hand. He directly stomped down on Black Pupil. With the 8 desolation steps, the ground cracked, and then the sky collapsed. With the 3rd step, ghosts and gods would be frightened. With each step, the 8 desolation would be shaken. This was a set of secret techniques, and also a set of terrifying combat skills. The power of each step was superimposed, and one step after another, it was enough to completely collapse the world. Tian didn't have a good impression of Black Pupil at all. He directly rushed over and stomped on his head. Behind him, his black hair danced wildly, like an unparalleled emperor, fierce and domineering. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 676. Humph. You call yourself a demon emperor. Do you really think that you are the demon clan that dominated all the worlds in the ancient times? Now the demon clan is just struggling at death's door. I give you face and call you a demon emperor. If I don't give you face, you are just a little demon. Do you really think you are something? Today, I will pull you down from the throne of demon emperor. Black Pupil was shocked by Tian's brazen turnaround and attack him. However, a sense of pride immediately emerged in his heart. He was the young master of a world. How noble was his status? As long as he wanted something, there was nothing he couldn't get. Moreover, with his talent, he could be called a peerless genius. His cultivation of the Black Fiend Ghost scripture was based on his own efforts. His cultivation base of an immortal lord was not tainted in the slightest. On the surface, Tian's cultivation was only at the 8th cycle of Demon Core, which was equivalent to the Celestial King. Compared with him, there was still the Immortal Monarch, and then the Celestial Emperor. At least on the surface, it could be said that there was a gap of 2 realms between them. One realm was already the gap between heaven and earth. 2 realms, the gap was even more obvious. It was almost insurmountable. As for Tian killing his subordinate Celestial Emperor, he didn't care too much. There was a kind of overbearing and cruel means in the Black Evil Ghost, which could plunder the opponent's cultivation and devour the power that didn't belong to him, so that his cultivation could increase dramatically in a very short time. However, the consequence was that his foundation was unstable. Once he reached the Celestial Emperor realm, it was almost impossible for him to increase his cultivation. Moreover, compared to Celestial Emperors of the same realm, this kind of Celestial Emperor realm, who was promoted through excessive means, was not at the same level at all. It was called a false Celestial Emperor. A Celestial Monarch who, cultivated normally, was comparable to it. Therefore, even if he was killed in an instant, it still didn't completely frighten Black Pupil. Seeing Tian's ferocious aura pouncing over, after a moment of shock, he was immediately overjoyed. He thought to himself, "Good, you're a dog fart demon emperor. You're just a self-proclaimed demon emperor. You can't be that strong, no matter how strong you are. You're just a bastard that broke out of the purple gold continent's mountain range." After this thought passed through his mind, when he saw Di Shirtian appear above his head and stomp down on him, his face couldn't help but darken. Face slapping. No, this was clearly stepping on his own face. If he was really stepped on, he would not say anything in the future. He would just find a hole and bury himself in it. Oomph. Anger surged on Haitong's face. The black bone fan in his hand opened with a crash. On the surface of the fan, a wave-shaped black light appeared. It fluctuated strangely. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a snow-white jade fan. He waved it above his head. Swish! A sparkling and translucent jade-like hand suddenly broke out of the jade fan. It looked abnormally slender and flawless, like the most perfect piece of art in the world. Her slender fingers spread open, and as if she wasn't from the mortal world, she stamped towards Sakura's left foot that was stepping down. It was as light as a feather, with a hint of femininity. Bang! Di Shirtian stomped down with the help of the domineering power of the 8 desolation steps. In addition to his own demonic body that was comparable to a demon saint's, the power of this stomp was not inferior to a full-strength attack of a demon saint. It was ferocious and domineering, containing infinite destructive power. Stepping into the void, even space itself was about to crumble with a single step. However, that jade-like hand contained a strange feminine power. The two collided, and the feminine power and the domineering power intertwined. An invisible force instantly caused the surrounding space to explode with a loud bang. This foot was actually blocked by this strange jade-like hand. It did not step on Haitong's body. The 9 children mother ghost divine fan? I didn't expect this treasure to fall into Haitong's hands. Nearby, 7 star-like light spots appeared between the eyebrows of a person. They flickered with bright starlight and emitted traces of mysterious colors. He looked like a young cultivator who was only 23 or 24 years old. The expression on his face looked very calm. This was the Star Clan of the 100 clans in the heavens. It was said that the ancestors of the Star Clan were born from the infinite power of the stars in the ancient star space. They had infinite talent for the power of the stars. In their bloodline, there was an aura that was close to the stars. The ancient Star Emperor was the most outstanding expert of the Star Clan. The clan's supreme cultivation technique, Star Sacrifice, was even more miraculous. Starting from the beginning of the heavenly tribulation, a star seal would appear on the forehead every time a heavenly tribulation was raised. This star seal had a miraculous power that could refine a star seal and condense it into one's own treasure. Then, the star seal would be absorbed into the star seal, allowing the star seal, which was constantly emitting star force, to speed up one's cultivation and temper one's body. It was very wonderful. Among the 100 clans, the Star Clan was one of the top 10 strongest clans. This Star Clan member was called Xing He, and he was also an outstanding figure of the Star Clan in this generation. Almost at a glance, he could tell that the folding fan in Black Pupil's hand was a legendary powerful treasure called the 9 Sun and Mother Ghost fan. Interesting. I didn't expect Demon Emperor Di Shirtian to have such a supreme treasure as the perfect seed. However, in ancient times, the Star Clan was on good terms with the Demon Clan. The elders in the clan also told us to try our best to be friends with the Demon Clan. Let's wait and see. If it really doesn't work out, we can help a little when the time comes. It's also a favor. Xing He thought to himself thoughtfully. His gaze did not leave the scene. Let Black Pupil test the waters first. This thought flashed in the minds of many cultivators. After all, who wouldn't be happy if someone stood out for them? Lunatic D, that fan, is the 9 Sun and Mother Ghost fan. It's an extremely powerful treasure. The 9 Sun and Mother Ghosts inside are very terrifying and have the terrifying divine ability to travel through the void. Be careful not to be sneak attacked by them. It said that the mother ghost has the strength of an ancient giant. The 9 son ghosts also have the battle strength of a demon saint. Ming was extremely knowledgeable, and she instantly recognized the origin of the fan. He quickly informed Di Shirtion. He told him to be on guard, in case he was ambushed. Humph! Di Shirtion snorted coldly. The purple mark between his eyebrows glowed faintly. He secretly used the ability of the divine eye to see through illusions. He secretly scanned the surrounding void. At the same time, his feet did not stop. Since the first step did not work, he immediately took the second step. This step gathered the power of the aura from before again and increased its power greatly in an instant. Once again, he stepped on Black Pupil. He clearly told Black Pupil that I was going to trample him to death. The power of this step was much stronger than before. It almost doubled in an instant. Haitong's face became more and more ugly. He waved the ghost deity fan in his hand again. Suddenly, a woman wearing a white gauze dress appeared. She looked extremely beautiful, and her figure was abnormally perfect. She was full of temptation, and there was a strange smile on her face. She could invisibly arouse the deepest desire in one's heart. After this ghost immortal appeared, she directly faced Di Shirtian's right foot. With a wave of his hand, a powerful force comparable to that of a demon saint spewed out. Black Pupil's eyes flashed with a touch of coldness. Bang! His foot stepped on the female, ghost immortal. Immediately, a terrible roar burst out. This step carried the power from before. It was so strong that it was not inferior to any demon saints. Under this step, the burst of power caused the female, ghost immortal, to retreat. However, at this moment, behind Di Shirtian, another female, ghost immortal in white shuttled through the void without warning. A slender hand silently turned into a sharp claw and clawed at his back. If he were to be grabbed by this hand, his heart would be ripped out and crushed to bits. Another female, ghost immortal, appeared above his head. With a wave of the white ribbon in her hand, she cut at his head like a blade. The edge of the ribbon was sharper than a divine weapon. The 9 ghost immortals shuttled through the void. Even immortals could not defend against them. With a light wave of the fan, 3 ghost immortals were released instantly. The sneak attack was almost as fast as lightning. Moreover, it happened without any warning. Danger came in the blink of an eye. Trying to sneak attack, Di Shirtian's expression was cold. Divine light flashed between his eyebrows. The delusion breaker power instantly reflected the scene around him into his mind. Under the divine eye, the ghost immortals hiding in the void could not hide any trace. He had already planned it in his mind. Seeing that they had attacked, he did not hesitate to send the ghost immortal under him, flying dozens of feet away. At the same time, his body turned sideways with the force of the step. He lifted his other left foot again and stomped on the female, ghost immortal behind him. The third step of the stomp of desolation. Boom! Boom! Carrying the vast power from the previous 2 steps, he stepped out again. As soon as his foot landed, countless cracks that could be seen with the naked eye instantly appeared in the void under his feet like a complete piece of glass. Like a spider web, the cracks were densely packed and quickly spread in all directions. With a loud boom, the entire void collapsed. The scene was filled with a strong sense of shock. Under his foot, the female ghost immortal that was comparable to a demon saint was annihilated inch by inch. Clang! At the same time, he turned his wrist and landed on Tiger Soul's slender saber hilt. He pulled it out, and the simple saber instantly drew a beautiful arc in the air as it slashed at the specter god above him. The blade vibrated violently and emitted a deep tiger roar. The sharp edge cut the void directly. However, the ghost immortal was unusually agile. With a sway of its body, it turned from solid to illusory and mysteriously hid in the void. 9 mother-son ghostly gods, tear this evildoer to shreds for me. Black Pupil revealed a ferocious expression at the corner of his mouth and shouted with a hideous smile. Damn it, this little bastard still dares to be so arrogant in front of me. He's courting death. Let's see how your ancestor will deal with you. Hearing that, Dark revealed a hideous smile at the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, he stretched his blood-red dragon claw forward. Crack! Immediately, a blood-red dragon claw stretched out from between D. Shurtian's brows. Like a blood crystal, the dragon claw slammed onto Black Pupil without warning. Poof! Black Pupil did not even have the chance to react. He only saw a flash of blood-red light in front of his eyes and felt a sharp pain in his body. It was as if he had been hit by a terrifying mountain. The blood in his body churned, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Even the protective ghost immortal above him was shattered on the spot. "I'll stomp you to death." In midair, a cold voice spread through the void. A large foot stepped directly on Black Pupil's face. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 677. Ming was the weapon of the ancient emperor of the underworld. It was the soul of the Book of Underworld. It had suppressed countless fierce experts in the ancient times. If it had not been bound, its power would have been immeasurable. In the past, it had been bound by the divine eye of heaven's punishment and helped to open up the nether prison. However, it had not really planned to merge with the divine eye. It still put its hopes on finding the broken Book of Underworld. It wanted to find the Book of Underworld and use the power of the Book of Underworld to return to its original body, regain its freedom. However, when it was forced by the 10 great divine artifacts to merge a page of the Book of Underworld with the divine eye of heaven's punishment, its hope of returning to the Book of Underworld was instantly shattered. In addition, when it saw D. Shurtian's potential, it immediately let go of its previous thoughts and truly began to merge with the divine eye. It merged itself into the nether prison. As soon as it merged, the binding of the divine eye disappeared in an instant. His strength was also recovering as the nether prison grew stronger. In other words, the current nether was like the soul of the heavenly punishment divine eye. With the last upgrade of the divine eye, Ming's strength had rapidly increased in a short time. At this moment, it had a strength that was not inferior to a demon saint. Moreover, it had the nether prison as its foundation. This attack carried the power of the entire nether prison. Black Pupil was caught off guard by this attack. Bang! Its left foot stepped hard on Black Pupil's handsome face. Suddenly, the vast power contained in the foot gushed out in an instant. The terrifying power crushed the surrounding space into powder. The void was like glass collapsing inch by inch. Berserk power continued to surge out from the shattered void. Kirome let out a scream, and his eyes were full of the big foot that was constantly enlarging. When this foot stepped on his face, he thought about the consequences, and his heart was suddenly replaced by a burst of fear. If he was really stepped on, he was afraid that his head would absolutely be trampled into powder with the space. He would be trampled to death. A look of fear flashed in his eyes, but he still roared crazily. 9 filial ghosts, protect me. In an instant, 9 peerless beauties appeared around him, and one after another, they moved towards Sakura. Bang, bang, bang. However, this step was already the 4th step. In the instant he stepped out, the power condensed in his foot was several times greater than before. The boundless power was filled with a domineering aura. A supreme intent realm that could trample all over the desolation gushed out. With a domineering and indomitable aura, he crushed the 9 specters into dust in an instant. He stepped firmly on Black Pupil's face. Hiss! In the surroundings, there was a series of gasps as if they wanted to swallow all the surrounding air into their stomachs. Seeing the scene of the foot stepping on Black Pupil's face, even their eyes couldn't help but shrink violently, and their feet couldn't help but take a step or two back. My goodness, this D. Shurtian is really lawless and has no scruples. He even dares to step on Black Pupil's face. No, this is simply stepping on his face. Even if Black Pupil can escape from this step, I'm afraid he won't have the face to see anyone in the future. TSK, this step is not only on Black Pupil's face, but also on his father's face, the entire face of the black evil spirit. The strength of the black evil spirit is ranked at the top of the myriad worlds. His father, Black Whirlwind, is a demon who founded the black evil spirit and opened up the black evil spirit world. There are countless ferocious people in the myriad worlds gathered there. It's a famous chaotic world where all kinds of ferocious people can be seen. When they fight, they're all desperados. This time, I'm afraid the demon race will go against the black evil spirit world. TSK, there's a good show to watch. After beating the young, the old will come out. I heard that Black Whirlwind loves his youngest son the most, and even gave him the 9 filial ghost fan. With his protective nature, I'm afraid he will directly attack the myriad demon city. Apparently, the Black Fiend was quite famous in the myriad of worlds. It was a ferocious name. Stepping on Black Pupil's face was simply humiliating the entire black evil spirit. For a time, many cultivators had already begun to speculate that the myriad demon city and the black evil spirit had completely offended each other. There was bound to be a fierce battle. Bang! D-Sure Ian's heart was as cold as iron. If you want to attack me, I'll kill you first. Even the Heavenly Emperor can forget about making me give you face. Since you want my world seed, I'll trample you to death. Without any hesitation, he stepped on Haitong's face with 1 foot. Suddenly, there was a terrifying roar, and the domineering power of his foot almost instantly smashed Black Pupil's head into a pulp. The white and red parts were instantly crushed into powder. Moreover, his entire body fell. He stomped all the way down. Boom, boom, boom. Neck, torso, thighs. He was stomped all the way into meat paste. With a loud bang, he stomped on the ground. Immediately, the ground that was like a diamond shook, and terrifying spiderweb-like cracks appeared, spreading in all directions. In the blink of an eye, even the ground collapsed. A huge deep pit was formed. The 9-son and mother ghost fan was full of spirituality. Suddenly, it flew up into the air, and the edge of the fan glowed with a sharp light. Like a terrifying blade, it slashed towards D-Sure Ian's neck. Buzz! At the same time, a ray of black light suddenly appeared from the flesh that had been trampled into meat paste. A pitch-black talisman flew out from it. The talisman was full of mysterious runes. Instantly, a ray of divine light shot out and landed on the flesh. In the flesh, an unusually illusory primordial spirit quickly emerged. Judging from the appearance of the primordial spirit, it was Black Pupil's appearance. This was Black Pupil's divine spirit. As soon as the divine spirit appeared, the talisman instantly stuck to his forehead. It glowed with a mysterious black light and instantly enveloped him. A mighty force burst out and tore a crack in the void that led directly to the outside of the Tribulation Cave abode. He rolled up Black Pupil and was about to escape. Leave it for your ancestor. When Ming saw this, his expression changed. He stretched out his dragon claw again and grabbed at Black Pupil's divine spirit. He wanted to capture it and bring it into Ming prison. He broke through the void at lightning speed and grabbed it with his dragon claw. How dare you! A violent roar suddenly came from the talisman. Suddenly, a pitch-black evil blade shot out from the talisman and slashed at the dragon claw. The blade was terrifyingly sharp and carried a terrifying murderous aura. It broke the dragon claw and swept Black Pupil into the crack in the void, about to disappear in an instant. You want to leave? What do you want to leave behind first? When D-Sure Ian saw this, a supreme majesty surged from his body and his body shook. Roar! 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 A vast and majestic aura burst out from his body. The 66 Emperor's true apertures around him lit up instantly. Dharma power rushed out of his body and appeared behind him. Suddenly, a series of domineering tiger roars and dragon roars soared into the sky. The domineering figures danced wantonly behind him. In an instant, endless mighty force poured into his body from the Dharma power. The support of the Dharma power, the power in his body, suddenly rose to the level of an ancient heavenly demon. Emperor's Seal! Emperor's Seal! The vast power of the Dharma power condensed into the Emperor's Seal. Suddenly, An ancient seal filled with the majesty of an emperor was formed. It was extremely simple, like a jade seal in the hands of an emperor. When it was pressed down, it could break mountains and rivers and topple the sun and moon. It was filled with supreme majesty and blasted toward the crack. Rumble. The ancient seal blasted on the talisman overbearingly. Immediately, the talisman trembled violently. Boundless murderous aura condensed and glowed with divine light to resist the ancient seal. However, the ancient seal that had condensed Di Shurtian's Dharma power was so powerful that even a heavenly demon would be shocked. Once it was pressed down, even a small thousand world would be smashed to smithereens. The talisman froze for a few breaths before it exploded. It blasted the ancient seal away. Without the protection of the talisman, Black Pupil's divine spirit was instantly swept into the boundless void. Suppress. Di Shurtian then opened his mouth and swallowed the 9 suns and Mother Phantom Fan in front of him. He swallowed it into his body and instantly sent it into the demon residence. The rank 8 Black Lotus in his body glowed with divine light. It flew into the air and suppressed the Phantom Fan with a lotus platform. The vast power suppressed the Phantom Fan on the spot. It could not move at all. One by one, runes flew into the air. It triggered the endless power of desire. The fan of ghosts and deities was a rare treasure. Just as well. Why get back? I'll give this Phantom Fan to my little sister as a protective treasure. After being buried for so long, it's about time for her to wake up. Di Shurtian thought to himself. Void healing. There was a horrifying pool of flesh and blood under his feet. In contrast, Di Shurtian, who was stepping on it, seemed to have an invisible power. A powerful aura swept out in an instant. A series of actions, from the beginning to the end, seemed to take a long time, but in fact it only took a few breaths of time. Every strike was as fast as lightning, and every step was earth-shattering. Between his movements, there was an invisible deterrent and domineering aura. He stomped Black Pupil to death. This scene was truly filled with a ferocious aura. Di Shurtian glanced at the crowd of cultivators. Many cultivators subconsciously looked away, not daring to look at him. This was the result he wanted. At this time, anyone who provoked him would not hesitate to kill the other party. He would beat the other party until they were terrified and beat the surrounding enemies until their hearts trembled. If he wanted to be strong, he had to be strong to the end. I'm a fugitive. Whoever wants my life, I'll kill you first. Seeing that the surroundings were silent, Di Shurtian waved his long sleeves and directly left into the distance. Wait! However, just as he walked less than 100 feet away, a series of shouts sounded again. Suddenly, the surrounding atmosphere became restless once again. The temptation of the perfect world seed was so great that it was hard to resist. Di Shurtian was furious in his heart. Do you really think I was a soft persimmon? He made a decision in an instant. With a thought, without hesitation, the 7 sins demonic zither that was hovering in the demon mansion vibrated and rushed out of his body. A black light flashed and appeared on his left hand. Chapter 678. The 7 sins demonic zither appeared in his hand. Looking at this jade zither, because it had absorbed the huge power of desire between heaven and earth, the entire zither was full. The originally snow-white demonic zither had become as black as ink. However, on it, one could still see traces of strange patterns. With a mysterious color, the 9 zither strings glowed with a strange divine light. These zither strings were refined from the silk of 10,000 years old heavenly silkworms. It could be said to be the top zither strings in the world. It was rare in the world. 2 heaven and earth spirit beads were quietly inlaid on the edges of the 2 zither strings. One was the wood spirit bead, and the other was the earth spirit bead. On the body of the zither, there were still 7 empty grooves that had not been inlaid with spirit beads. Every time one was inlaid, it meant that the 7 sins would be upgraded once. When the 7 sins was refined, it was already a supreme grade magic weapon. Then, the Earth Spirit bead was inlaid, transforming it from a magic weapon to a low-grade magic weapon. After the Wood Spirit bead was inlaid, it directly transformed into a middle-grade magic weapon. If he could continue to find a third one, the Seven Sins, which was now full of desire, could instantly transform into a high-grade magic weapon. Of course, the Seven Sins could not be measured by its grade. Tion took out the Seven Sins demonic zither, and the 5 slender fingers of his right hand slowly brushed across the strings. Looking at the jade zither, there was a touch of nostalgia in his eyes. This jade zither could be said to be the natal demonic artifact that had accompanied him for the longest time. The feeling of being connected by blood was really wonderful. Damn it, all your cultivation has been used to lay the supreme Taoist foundation. How could it be used up just by casually stomping 2 bastards to death? I didn't expect that these guys are so greedy that their divine souls are captivated. Even the previous deterrents couldn't deter them. If their desire is aroused, it's really King terrifying. Dark secretly cursed. His eyes were full of hostility as he looked at the cultivators who were still surrounding him. Originally, Tion made a series of moves, relying on his tyrannical demon body that was comparable to an ancient demon saint's after being tempered by the heavenly punishment. Coupled with his combat skills, he forcibly stimulated his body's potential and attracted the vitality of heaven and earth around him. He did not expect that the power of greed was too great. There were still people who came out to stop him. Others did not know, but he knew very well. Although Tion now was majestic, in fact, the true power in his body had long been exhausted. Dharma power was exhausted, leaving only a strong body. Even the heavenly punishment divine eyes, because of the lack of true power, it was extremely difficult to use. In an instant, he had fallen into a situation where he was at the end of his rope. His own trump cards, one by one. If he delayed any longer, this place would become a tiger's den. Otherwise, Ming wouldn't have rashly attacked and killed Black Pupil. So what? Since they want to court death, why should I stop them? Tion said with a calm face. All of a sudden, he sat cross-legged in midair. The Seven Sins demonic zither floated in front of him, unusually stable. He placed his hands on the strings. Chin, demonic chin. Chin plucked chin. Ding dong. Suddenly, a clear and melodious sound of the zither spread out. In the sound of the zither, there was a strange power dissipating into the void along with the notes. It seemed to be stirring up some kind of mysterious power in the void. The endless sea of desire began to fluctuate strangely, and the power of desire was drawn down from the void. Since the first note began to play, Tian's fingers continued to dance, quickly brushing across the strings. In the sound of the zither, there was a strange charm that was transmitted into one's heart. His whole mind involuntarily became restless. His originally calm mind was instantly filled with thoughts, and his mind, which was originally filled with desire, was unconsciously magnified by the sound of the zither. It was like the whisper of a lover, like the light of endless treasures, like a group of young girls dancing, and the private parts of the girls were faintly discernible. There was a voice telling you that as long as you were willing, endless power would be yours in an instant. Thousands of beauties, billions of wealth, endless power, endless delicacies. Supreme divine power. In an instant, under Tian's 10 fingers, countless beautiful sounds of the zither spread out in all directions like a tide. In the void, the sounds kept circling and circling for a long time, intertwining with each other to form a beautiful movement that had never been heard before in the world. In the air, the heavenly sounds were like the sound of strings and bamboos. A small spring was flowing. All kinds of beautiful sounds of the zither spread out in all directions almost instantly. Moreover, the most amazing thing was that almost every cultivator heard a different zither sound in their ears. However, they were the most beautiful notes that they yearned for in their hearts. Moreover, in their hearts, countless desires that were buried deep in their hearts kept surging out inexplicably, appearing in their minds along with the sound of the zither. Countless scenes that they had been looking forward to for a long time appeared. Seven Sins Divine Melody. First movement, Heaven's Heart. In the sound of the zither, countless mysterious notes drew on the endless power of desire in the void, turning into a wonderful movement that instantly entered the minds of every cultivator. The sound of the zither was unstoppable. Not only did it ring in their ears, but it also rang in their hearts. It beat in their souls. Look around. Tion stood tall in the void, the seven sins demonic zither floating in front of him. His 10 fingers moved like flowing water, and the 9 zither strings were like the most beautiful fairies in the world, dancing in waves. Faintly, strands of strange black notes could be seen flying out of the zither strings. They quickly spread out in all directions. In the void, all kinds of beautiful zither sounds reverberated wantonly. At the same time, all kinds of expressions appeared on the faces of the thousands of cultivators gathered in the surroundings. Some were ferocious, some were happy, some were sad, and some were full of greed. All kinds of expressions appeared on their faces, as if they were the expressions of life. All of them were silently immersed in their own endless desires. Ding! Tion pressed his hands lightly on the zither strings, stopping the sound. A cold glint flashed across his eyes as he looked around. He quickly took out the wine god's gourd and poured a mouthful of the illusory spirit concealment wine into his mouth. Immediately, his body disappeared into nothingness like an illusion. Then, he directly traveled through the void and fled into the distance. Phew! In the nether prison, Dark exhaled a long breath, his eyes filled with horror. Crazy D. Is this the legendary Seven Sins Divine Melody? It's so strange, so terrifying. It can penetrate every hole. When the zither music entered the ears, it instantly aroused all kinds of desires buried deep in the heart. This beautiful zither music is not played by the zither, but by the thousands of desires in the bodies of all living beings. Desires come true from reality to illusion, and from illusion to music. If this song is played with all my heart, I'm afraid even the most powerful experts can't avoid it. Its knowledge was amazing. When it listened carefully just now, even it felt the various desires in its body quickly turn into various kinds of zither music. It echoed in its mind. The countless desires in its heart were all realized. How could the sound of the zither, which was formed by the desire in his heart, not be beautiful when he heard it? It was almost immersed in it and would never wake up. This is only the first movement of the Seven Sins Divine Melody. The first movement, Heaven's Heart. When the zither music is played, it will shake the heart of heaven. In the zither music, as long as you are not emotionless and desireless, the desires in your body will be aroused by the music, and all kinds of desires will emerge. In an instant, countless living beings will be immersed in the boundless desires. When the zither music is played, even the immortals will be moved. Tion said indifferently. The Seven Sins Divine Melody was a supreme divine melody in the world, the supreme divine melody of the sound path. It was a supreme technique. There were 7 movements in total, and each movement had a supreme power that could shock ghosts and gods. Its power was based on boundless desires, and it could be said to be the pinnacle of the Tao of desire in the world. The first movement was to arouse the boundless desires in the hearts of all living beings, making them immerse themselves in their desires and lose their minds completely. If they could escape, it meant that their minds were strong enough to suppress their desires, and they were lucky enough to escape. However, the second movement will be played next. The second movement, Evil Tribulation. If the first movement was just to arouse one's desire, then the second movement was a terrifying killer move. When played together, heaven and earth would wail. It's a pity that the Seven Sins Divine Melody I have is incomplete. I only have the first 2 movements, and I still have no clue about the remaining 5. Otherwise, if the Seven Sins Divine Melody was complete and all 7 movements were played, it would be enough to annihilate all living beings in the world. Tion shook his head inwardly. It was a pity that the divine melody was incomplete. It had always been a regret in his heart. He could feel that the seven sins divine melody had the power to change the world. If it was complete, it would not be inferior to the Emperor's shocking world book that he had created. He thought of the many cultivators who had been immersed in their desires. A strong murderous intent rose in his heart. However, he quickly put it down. He had used his cultivation to establish his Tao foundation, and his true qi had been exhausted. If his murderous intent woke up those cultivators who were immersed in their desires, it would be counterproductive. They got off too easy. If he had his cultivation, he would definitely not hesitate to pluck the zither strings, condense sound blades, and cut those cultivators into pieces. Crazy Emperor, quickly find a place to hide for a while and cultivate your true qi back, Ming said eagerly. When the time comes, I'll consume the world's seed. Hee. I wonder what kind of miraculous things will happen when the perfect world seed opens up. Once you have an inner world, you will be like a carp leaping over the dragon's gate. Thinking about Sakra's supreme Tao foundation, his cultivation base was not damaged at all. Although the true energy in his body was empty with his cultivation base, it would not be too difficult to cultivate back the royal true energy. Moreover, he had a large number of heavenly essence pills and all kinds of spirit wine, especially the emerald blood amber wine, which was the best for cultivation. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support legal reading. Chapter 679. In the Thousand Tribulations cave abode, there were many ferocious beasts hidden around. However, it was not difficult for Shurtian to hide. He used the same technique again and formed a futon with the illusory spirit disappearing wine. He sat cross-legged on the praying mat and channeled the energy from the praying mat into his body so that he could remain invisible in the void. Not only was he invisible, but he could also block all kinds of attacks. It could be said that being on the futon was definitely safer than being anywhere else in the Golden Domain. My cultivation of the 8th transformation of the demon core has completely dissipated. However, compared to the supreme Tao foundation that has been established, mere cultivation is nothing. Sakra sat cross-legged on the praying mat. He waved his sleeves, and a large number of heaven primary elixirs appeared in front of him. There were no less than 100,000 of them. Whoosh! Looking at the elixirs that were filled with connate essence qi, Shurtian opened his mouth and swallowed them without hesitation. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind swept the 100,000 elixirs into his stomach. Boom! Every heaven primary elixir contained a large amount of connate essence qi. The amount of connate essence qi was comparable to the amount of connate essence qi that an ancient cultivator could absorb in a day. It could be said that one elixir was comparable to an ancient cultivator cultivating in an environment filled with connate essence qi for a day. For the current cultivators, it was equivalent to at least 10 days of cultivation. The dermic powers obtained from cultivation were extremely pure and could save a lot of time and energy. Shurtian swallowed 100,000 elixirs in one go. All the elixirs entered his stomach and turned into a large amount of connate essence qi. It was like a majestic sea that gushed out in an instant. It was boiling so intensely that his body was about to explode. Demon refining cauldron, take all rivers into the sea. Shurtian was calm and controlled the demon refining cauldron to release a strong devouring force. It quickly swallowed the vast amount of connate essence qi into the cauldron. At the same time, he activated the Imperial Book of Shocking World. Suddenly, the vast amount of desire energy in the void poured into his body like a tide. The vast amount of desire energy formed a huge vortex above his head. Within the vortex, a massive amount of power of desire condensed into a liquid state. It was extremely dense. At the same time, The 66 Dharma appearances around him were also frantically absorbing the yuan qi of heaven and earth around him. The power of desire surged into his body and into the demon's smelting cauldron, where it merged with the connate vital qi. After being refined, it was sent into the rank 8 Black Lotus. Boom! Boom! The 8th grade Black Lotus, which had been dormant for a long time, suddenly emitted an endless amount of divine light. In a clockwise direction, it started to rotate quickly, bringing along a vast amount of mighty power, continuously refining it, transforming it into wisps of purple gold royal true power. Immediately, the power of the heavenly yuan pill was continuously transforming into the vast Huangji true power at an unbelievable speed. The rest of the power was all illusionary. Only when it was truly refined into the Huangji true power would it truly belong to one's own power. The grade 8 Black Lotus revolved and swallowed all of the power, not wasting a single bit. The depleted royal true power was increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boom! A day later, Di Shirtian opened his eyes and took out another 100,000 heavenly yuan pills. In his hand, he held the god of wine gourd and poured a few mouthfuls of the emerald blood amber wine into his mouth. Once again, he closed his eyes and began to refine. For a time passed quietly by his side. He would wake up almost every day, and at the same time, he had swallowed 100,000 heavenly yuan pills. At every moment, his body was filled with a vast amount of vital qi. If other cultivators saw this, they would probably vomit blood on the spot. In the eyes of ordinary cultivators, the heavenly yuan pill was the most precious elixir. Even if they had it, they would only take one a day, and it would be painful for half a day. For Di Shirtian to swallow 100,000 heavenly yuan pills a day, it was simply unimaginable. Extravagant. It was not an ordinary extravagance. However, this was a kind of foundation. He had the demon city, the imperial treasure vault, and a large amount of spiritual wine in the god of wine gourd. These were all foundations. Now, he was going to turn all of these foundations into strength. Break and rebuild. With Di Shirtian's current supreme Tao foundation, not to mention 100,000 heavenly yuan pills, even if it was 1,000,000 heavenly yuan pills, he would still be able to quickly refine them. His foundation was incomparably solid and stable. When Ming saw Di Shirtian immersed in cultivation, he couldn't help but look around. He couldn't help but glance at the entire nether prison. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. At this moment, the nether prison was quite empty. The original devil souls had all been refined. Now, only tens of thousands of divine souls were left. In order to upgrade the divine eye of heaven's punishment, a considerable price had been paid. However, in the blink of an eye, a thoughtful look appeared in his eyes. Judging from the previous scene, this divine eye of Crazy D is indeed closely related to heaven's punishment. Otherwise, with heaven's punishment's impartial duty, it would absolutely not be able to watch the world's seed transform without doing anything. Previously, when he was surrounded by wolves, he didn't dare to relax. Now that he was out of danger, naturally, he began to recall the previous scene in his mind. Not only did the eye of heaven's punishment not kill Di Shirtian, but it also strangely helped him to establish the supreme Tao foundation. It was as if it was taking care of a nephew, which was indescribably strange. In the eyes of the world, heaven's punishment didn't have the slightest emotion at all. It represented heaven and earth to punish experts who went against heaven and earth. It had always been cold and heartless. However, it did such a thing. It seemed that the eye of heaven's punishment wasn't an emotionless dead object. Ming thought to himself. In ancient times, there were powerful experts who guessed that heaven's punishment wasn't a dead object, but a living creature or a powerful race that punished on behalf of heaven. It was the most mysterious and powerful existence in heaven and earth. Could it be that this guess might be true? Could it be that they're the ones who should be ranked first among the 100 clans? In ancient times, there had always been a great controversy about the ranking of the top 10 races. Moreover, almost no one dared to sit in the first place easily. Later, for some reason, there was a rumor that there was a mysterious race in the world with tyrannical strength. It was just that they didn't come out. Otherwise, even the demon race would have to bow down to them. It was said to be the strongest race in heaven and earth. However, no one could prove what that race was. In the end, it was treated as a rumor and a joke. Later, it was said that heaven's punishment wasn't a cold judgment weapon, but a living creature. Immediately, many experts associated heaven's punishment with that mysterious race. As for the truth, perhaps no one knew except for the three supreme rulers of heaven and earth. Damn it! I'm afraid only those old guys who play with curses know. When the time comes, I'll let Lunatic D go to their nest and make a scene. Let's see if they can still hide. Ming laughed strangely and didn't think too much about these questions. When the time came, he would naturally understand. He closed his dragon eyes and coiled up in the nether prison. In the previous battlefield, thousands of cultivators stood on the ground like wooden blocks. Their faces were constantly changing like a kaleidoscope. The speed was even more powerful than the ultimate skill of changing faces. His eyes seemed to be abnormally dispirited, without the slightest bit of spirit. Whoosh! Suddenly, starlight flickered on the forehead of Xing, he from the Star Clan. He silently opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. A look of horror appeared on his face. What a demon emperor! He can pull thousands of cultivators into boundless desire with just one song. If it weren't for my unique cultivation method and strong divine soul, I'm afraid I would continue to sink into desire. What kind of song is that? It's so strange and terrifying. Such a beautiful sound of the zither actually contains such a terrifying amount of power. In Xinghe's eyes, there was a look of worry. Terrifying, too terrifying. Even he couldn't detect when he fell into the trap. At first, he only felt that the song was beautiful, like the sound of nature. But later, his mind was filled with endless desire. He sank into it. During this time, if anyone dared to lay a hand on him, they would most likely lose 10 lives. Sound attack is indeed the most strange and terrifying cultivation method in the world. However, sound attack has always been the best skill of the Heavenly Sound Clan. I didn't expect D. Shirtian to have such a terrifying level of attainment. Looking around, he found that many cultivators were struggling. It seemed that they were really suppressing their desire and breaking free from it. He didn't stay and quickly turned to leave. However, he secretly decided that if he had the chance, he would definitely go to the Demon City and meet the Demon Emperor in person to improve the relationship between the two clans. As soon as he left, the surroundings became silent again. No one knew when, but a skinny figure appeared and swept through the crowd like the wind. On the spot, all kinds of precious treasures on those cultivators disappeared in an instant. They were all robbed in a short time. Sky-pilfering divine skill, shadowless star-picking hand. Phew! In the void, Xian Ming slightly exhaled. An inexplicable color flashed across his face. The netherworld ghost lamp on his shoulder glowed. He suddenly looked in the direction that Di Shirtian had fled and muttered, "The peerless combat skill of the ancient sky-trampling clan. Desolation Steps. A domineering divine song. It can actually arouse desire." I didn't expect him to have so many combat skills. I might be able to find him as an ally when I go to the burial ground. There seemed to be some hesitation in his heart. He glanced at the crowd of cultivators below and turned to leave without hesitation. Among the many cultivators, some of the weaker ones had completely sunk into desire and had completely fallen, never to rise again. After a while, some of the cultivators also woke up one after another. Boom, boom. Time passed quietly. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. In Di Shirtian's body, waves of purple-gold Huangji true force flowed like water in the demon meridians, nourishing them. After it was transported in his body, it returned to the demon mansion. In the demon mansion, the 8th-grade Black Lotus was spinning continuously. Runes flashed, and a huge amount of primordial chi was being poured into the Black Lotus. In the Black Lotus, The purple-gold liquid was flowing like an ocean. It actually filled 1/10 of the space in the Black Lotus. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 680. It had to be known that ever since the Supreme Tao Foundation was established, the rank 8 Black Lotus had instantly expanded by 10 times. The current 1/10 was the peak of the Demon Core 8th refinement stage when the Black Lotus was filled to the brim. With his own huge foundation, regardless of the cost, not only did he completely recover his original cultivation, but he also took a big step forward. The purple-gold royal true force in his body was like the Yangtze River, flowing endlessly in his body, circulating the heavens. 1 month, 100,000 heaven primary elixirs every day. In 1 month, 3 million heaven primary elixirs, plus the emerald blood amber wine. In just 1 month, Chertion consumed a huge amount of wealth, enough to make countless experts change their expressions. Even the most extravagant people could not swallow such a huge amount of elixirs without even lifting their eyelids. It was really amazing. After completely restoring the royal true force to its previous level, Chertion slowly opened his eyes. With a flash of light in his hand, an ancient seed that looked like chaos spun in his palm. On the surface of the seed, countless mysterious and ancient lines intertwined, weaving into a mysterious Tao pattern. In the simplicity, there was no strange brilliance. It was as if it was just an ordinary stone that could be seen everywhere by the roadside. If one did not pay attention to it, they would probably throw it aside. The Thousand Calamity Cave Mansion is full of danger. Although you can see the treasures at a glance, these are obviously baits set by the Thousand Calamity Ancestor, a tool that arouses the desire in the hearts of all the cultivators in the universe, to drive them to fight with the fierce beasts here, and even to kill each other under the drive of greed. I'm afraid that his plan requires a large amount of living creatures' flesh and divine souls. The longer they stay, the more dangerous it is. Chertion looked at the perfect world source seed in his hand and muttered to himself. Moreover, in each of the 5 unique domains, there is a spiritual pearl of heaven and earth. This spiritual pearl, no matter what, must be obtained. 5. The temptation of 5 spiritual pearls of heaven and earth to him was not small. Regarding this, he did not hide the desire in his heart. If he could get it, it meant that he had already gathered 7 spiritual pearls. Only 2 more were left, and he could completely collect all the spiritual pearls. At that time, the 7 sins would completely undergo a magical transformation. I'm interested in all the wealth in the Myriad Tribulation Cave. And for that, I need to become even stronger. Chertion's gaze was abnormally deep. Power. He needed more power. If he had the strength, he wouldn't have had to resort to all kinds of schemes to escape when he was surrounded. He could have just killed all those cultivators. If he had the strength, he wouldn't have had to be so careful in the Myriad Tribulation's cave abode. He would have had a plan for half a day for every step he took. He carefully considered the consequences. Moreover, if he wanted to leave this strange place, he probably didn't have the strength to do so. It was like a mirage. And now, the only thing that could increase his strength in a short period of time was the perfect world source seed. Lunatic Chertion, you're about to consume the world source seed and open up your inner world. Ming woke up from his slumber and immediately understood what was going on when he saw Chertion's actions. Not bad. Chertion nodded and said, the world source seed is an irresistible temptation for any expert. If I bring it outside, once the news spreads, I'm afraid it will immediately attract countless experts. No matter how well it's hidden, it's not safe. The best way is to consume it and open up my inner world. Then, it will be completely integrated with me. No one can take it away from me. Regarding this, he already had a very appropriate plan in his heart. The inner world was related to one's life achievements. It was the strongest thing to rely on to break the shackles of heaven and earth. No matter what, he had to have it at all costs. Having it and not having it were two extremes. Tion was almost certain that there were only a handful of peerless geniuses who had inner worlds. Otherwise, with the help of the inner world, one's strength would instantly increase. Once the inner world was out, one would be like a god inside. He well said, even if you didn't say it, I would have reminded you to consume the seed and open up your inner world. But before that, I'll teach you the method of splitting open the heavens. I'll tell you everything you need to pay attention to when splitting open the heavens. You should know that there's a possibility of failure when opening up the inner world. Ming's expression was unusually serious. He naturally had a lot of experience in opening up the inner world. After all, he was an antique that had survived since ancient times. Splitting open the heavens had to be done in one go. If he was exhausted halfway and couldn't complete it completely, the source seed of the world would collapse on the spot. It would become a broken seed, and the power of the world in the seed would be exhausted. That was equivalent to destroying a source seed of the world. Every source seed of the world was extremely precious. Destroying it was simply a waste of natural resources. Moreover, the source seed in Tian's hand was the perfect source seed. It was the only one in the world. Without saying anything, Tian began to quietly listen to Ming's instructions for splitting open the heavens. His eyes couldn't help but light up when he heard all the words. After a full hour, he finally completely absorbed all the information he had received. Now is the time to create the inner world. Tian stared silently at the source seed of the world in his hand for a long time. Suddenly, a look of determination appeared in his eyes. It was a kind of determination that didn't have the slightest worry about the consequences. He picked up the source seed of the world, raised his hand, and directly pressed it into the purple mark between his eyebrows. What? You want to merge the source seed of the world with the divine eye of heavenly punishment and merge the inner world with the divine eye? You're crazy. Nether had been paying attention to his every move. When he suddenly saw what Zhou Donghuang was doing, a look of horror appeared in his eyes. He was so scared that even his soul was about to scatter. He roared, "The divine eye has already opened up the nether prison. Do you want to merge the inner world with the nether prison?" From ancient times until now, no one has ever dared to merge the inner world with another space when opening it up. If you're not careful, not only will you fail to open the inner world, but even the netherworld prison will collapse. He was so scared that his soul almost jumped out of his body. Merging the two spaces. Oh my God. Once the inner world was opened, it would be an independent world. This world would no longer be able to absorb the essence of the world from the outside world to strengthen itself. It could only gradually grow stronger by relying on the essence of the inner world's owner to absorb and inject it into the inner world during cultivation. No one knew what kind of changes would occur if the inner world and the netherworld prison merged. Although Ming wasn't worried about himself, as long as the divine eye of heavenly punishment wasn't destroyed, he wouldn't die. However, if the netherworld prison collapsed, he didn't know if it could be reborn. Danger. The risk involved was simply too great. It was completely a gamble. Put yourself in a desperate situation and fight for survival. Opportunities don't come by waiting, but by fighting for them. In my body, the divine eye of heavenly punishment is the most mysterious. It's almost impossible to destroy. The inner world is what made me a peerless expert. Only by merging it with the divine eye can it become indestructible. When a netherworld prison merges with the inner world, I will open up the heavenly punishment world. A crazy look flashed across Tian's mind. In fact, when he got the world seed, he had been thinking about whether to merge the inner world with the netherworld prison. However, he had been hesitating all this time. It was hard to decide. After all, in the world, such a thing had never happened before. Once they fused, no one knew what would happen. There was also a huge risk. If he failed to open it, he would suffer great damage. Even the netherworld prison might collapse. Once that happened, Even the divine eye of heavenly punishment would be severely damaged. However, once the merger was successful, it would give birth to an even stronger inner world and even more magical power. Living for a lifetime was just a gamble. Gamble with heaven, gamble with earth, gamble with life. If he didn't have the courage to fight, how could he become stronger? To surpass. Either the inner world and the netherworld prison would collapse together, or the two would merge into one and form the heavenly punishment world. Rumble. Tion took a deep breath and suppressed all the doubts in his heart. His face was full of determination. There was no fear in his eyes, only a touch of determination. Between his eyebrows, the divine eye of heavenly punishment opened silently. The chaotic world seed in his hand was directly pushed into the divine eye. The divine eye didn't stop it and let the world seed merge into the divine eye easily. However, in an instant, the world power emitted from the world seed collided violently with the netherworld prison in the divine eye. It was as if the two worlds had suddenly collided. The netherworld prison shook violently. The large number of divine souls imprisoned inside seemed to feel the aura of doomsday. Endless fear surged in them, and they couldn't help but open their mouths and let out shrill cries. Thousands of divine souls protect the netherworld prison. Dark roared with a face full of misfortune. He waved his dragon claw, and countless divine souls instantly supported the netherworld prison, temporarily stabilizing it. It resisted the impact of the vast world power outside. He shouted, "Crazy D, hurry up, take out the source seed of life, and stimulate the world power in the world seed. Open the inner world at the fastest speed. Otherwise, the entire netherworld prison will collapse completely." Source seed of life. Tion was calm. He waved his hand, and thousands of source seeds of life rushed into the divine eye. Ordinary experts only needed one to open the inner world, but he used thousands of them. Roar. After sending all the source seeds into the divine eye, Tion didn't hesitate. He focused his mind and directly rushed into the divine eye. His entire mind was completely focused on the divine eye. As soon as he entered, he saw the violently shaking netherworld prison and a spinning world seed. Thousands of source seeds of life rushed into the seed with a loud rumble. I want to split the sky and earth. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chitian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 681. Opening up the inner world meant using the source seed of life to stimulate the enormous world origin hidden within the seed. At the same time, using one's mind to enter the world seed, using the power of one's spirit to perform the magnificent feat of splitting open the heavens and earth. During the process of splitting open the heavens, one's own comprehension of splitting open the heavens would continuously integrate into one's mind, turning into the heaven-splitting seal. That would be a great creation that transcended the heavens and earth. After obtaining the heaven-splitting seal, one's realm and cultivation would experience an unimaginable leap forward. Splitting open the heavens was a kind of comprehension, a kind of opportunity. Even if it was just opening up the inner world, it was still splitting open the heavens. The comprehension within could be comprehended by oneself and used to increase one's realm. The moment Tian's mind entered the world seed, he felt that the air around him suddenly changed. His body seemed to be in an incomparably sticky state, and even moving was difficult. He hurriedly looked around, only to see that around him there were patches of chaotic gas everywhere. They intertwined together, forming a strange, chaotic world. In this place, every wisp of gas seemed to contain the mystical power of the world. The rich origin energy filled every inch of the void in this world. However, this origin energy had a strong aura of stillness, solidified together, and did not have the slightest bit of vitality. It seemed to have completely settled in this place. Rumble. In this strange world, waves of origin energy filled with life aura poured in without warning. The enormous origin energy instantly spread in all directions, mixing with the origin energy that filled the surroundings. Immediately, in the entire world, the deathly still origin energy of the world strangely gave birth to a wave of vitality. It was as if in an instant, there was a change from death to life. Suddenly, the origin energy of the world had a wonderful life. Tion could clearly feel the changes outside his body. Almost instantly, he understood that this was a miraculous change caused by the origin energy of life fusing into the world. Only when the two merged could the origin energy of the world truly give life. In this way, the world that was opened up could give birth to life, allowing living beings to survive in it and be able to grow all kinds of spiritual items. If I don't succeed, I'll die trying. A thought appeared in his mind. To split open the heavens, one must have the supreme will to break the axe and turn it into a boat. One must have the courage to press forward courageously. Putting life and death aside, he did not hesitate at all, only to see Tion roaring and his entire body suddenly began to expand violently. Boom, boom, 10,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet. Almost in an instant, his body grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. As he swelled up, a vast pressure gushed out like a tidal wave. It immediately repelled the origin energy of the world that filled the space around him, causing the entire space to shake. Its massive demonic body, which was at least 3,000 feet tall, stood in the void. His black robe completely revealed his powerful muscles. Every inch of his skin was perfectly covered by his muscles. Moreover, they were constantly moving like vigorous dragons, emitting a powerful aura. A single punch could shatter the entire world. Behind him, his black hair danced wildly in the wind, as if he was the incarnation of an unparalleled demon god. Outside his body, the world energy of chaos was everywhere. It continued to tumble, as if it was an independent world. Tiger Soul split open the heavens. His eyes were like the sun and moon, emitting a breathtaking divine light. With a thought, the Tiger Soul saber on his back suddenly flew out of its scabbard. In an instant, it flew into the air and directly appeared in front of the heaven's punishment god. It turned into a golden stream of light and rushed into the divine eye. At the same time, in the origin energy of the world, a golden ray of divine light flashed in front of Tion, and the Tiger Soul appeared. Patter! He reached out and grabbed the slender hilt of the Tiger Soul. Almost instantly, the Tiger Soul grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a huge saber that was almost 4,000 feet long. On the saber, there were many golden saber runes that looked like fish bones, emitting waves of divine light. However, under the green light of the green pearl on the saber, it exuded a demonic aura. Roar! The figure of a divine tiger appeared in the Tiger Soul, letting out an excited roar. It was as if he could feel that he was about to perform the magnificent feat of splitting open the heavens. Tion did not split open the heavens immediately. Instead, he reached out and touched the saber gently. There was a hint of melancholy, excitement, and unconcealable excitement in his eyes. He said slowly, "In the legends of my previous life, there was a Pangu who split open the heavens and earth in the chaotic world. He used the sky-splitting axe to split open the chaotic world. With his indomitable spirit, he eventually turned into all living things and evolved into boundless living beings. Although I'm not as good as the great god Pangu, I cannot split open the chaotic world. I can't open up a boundless world in the primordial chaos, but now I can do the same in this world seed and open up a small world." Lin Fan scanned his surroundings. The power of the world was in the color of chaos. It was as if he was in a small, chaotic world. His body was 3,000 feet long, like a deity in the heavens. Extreme Emperor Road God and Devil morning, splitting open the heavens. He waved the tiger soul in his hand in a strange way. He did not hold back at all. He used one of his most powerful combat techniques right from the start. On the spot, the 3,000 gods and devils waved their sabers wildly, devouring boundless primordial chi. The power of the 3,000 gods and devils gathered in the tiger soul. Suddenly, the saber body of the tiger soul emitted a dazzling divine light that flowed continuously like water. The power contained in the saber swelled vigorously. With the power of the 8th transformation demon core, it rose to an unbelievable level in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the power contained in the saber broke through the boundless shackles and rose to the ancient heavenly demon realm. This vast and mighty power was completely gathered in the tiger's soul, but strangely, it did not show any sign of it. Kacha! The tiger's soul slashed at the boundless chaotic world. The entire chaotic world tumbled violently like boiling water. There was no light, no sound, and no color in the world. Suddenly, a saber light slashed down. Boundless sharpness shot out, and a huge crack was created in the terrifying chaos by the slash. Boom! Boom! In the crack, there were terrifying flames, violent storms, true water that was filled with death, and the vast power of the earth. Instantly, they gushed out from the crack and were filled with the most violent and destructive power. The entire chaotic world was rumbling violently. This saber slashed open the chaotic world. In the dark, a mysterious feeling appeared in his mind. It was as if he had a new understanding of the heavens and earth and the world in an instant. Saber techniques and battle techniques gained a deeper understanding from this slash. A mysterious aura was entangled in his mind. His cultivation realm appeared clearly in his mind, and it had strangely risen by a little. Sky Splitter. Is this the benefit of Sky Splitter? It allowed me to comprehend the power of the heavens and allow me to comprehend all my cultivation techniques and battle techniques. My cultivation realm and battle techniques are sublimated in Sky Splitter. Sky Splitter is a great creation. Tion could clearly feel that when the saber slashed open the chaotic world, various laws, rules, and great Tao fragments were born in the crack. These great Tao fragments, along with the power of the heavens, merged into his mind. This was simply plundering the laws of the heavens and earth. Comprehension of the heavens and earth. Sky Splitter. Sky Splitter. Tian's mind was shaken, and he was filled with boundless joy. Without any hesitation, the tiger's soul in his hand slashed out again along the crack that was previously created. Slash after slash, the chaotic world was continuously split open. All kinds of unparalleled battle techniques were used one after another. He continuously used them in turn. Every time he used them, he would have a mysterious understanding in his mind. Under the saber, the chaotic world kept rolling. It wanted to annihilate and devour the space that was split open again. Tian had no choice but to continuously wield his saber. He shattered the vast power of the heavens and earth and turned it into the mysterious yin and yang qi, the power of creation. Almost every slash required all the strength in his body. The consumption of his body was simply immeasurable. Once his strength was exhausted and the power of the heavens and earth around him was still not completely opened, he would be in danger of dying from exhaustion. The power of the heavens and earth contained in a perfect world seed was many times larger than an ordinary world seed. This also meant that Tian had to spend far more energy than others to open it. The difficulty also increased by many times in an instant. Lunatic, what a lunatic! The world seed and the nether prison have merged. Once the two reject each other, even the opened inner world will collapse in an instant. When Dark saw the scene in the nether prison, he couldn't help but grit his teeth and shout, "I really don't know if I owe you anything. Forget it, forget it. If something really happens to you, I can't escape either. I've never felt at ease following you, my master. Lunatic D, you have to catch more divine souls in the future. I've suffered a great loss this time. Looking at the scene of the violent rejection between the power of the heavens and the nether prison, Dark could almost see the edge of the nether prison constantly collapsing, as if countless terrible cracks had appeared. Obviously, the two worlds were already rejecting each other. Once the inner world was completely opened, the rejection force of this completely different world would reach its peak in an instant. Perhaps the inner world would survive and the nether prison would collapse. Perhaps the nether prison would exist and the inner world would be destroyed. Or even the two worlds would collapse together. No matter which one it would most likely cause great damage in an instant. I didn't expect the world origin contained in the perfect world seed to be so huge. If this continues, Lunatic D will die of exhaustion before the inner world is opened. Dark looked up at the sky above the nether prison. A huge space appeared, and inside it, a giant was swinging his saber again and again. He broke a large piece of the void. Sweat poured down his face like rain. I've suffered a great loss. After this, I don't know how long it will take for me to wake up. Shaking his head, a grave expression suddenly appeared on Dark's face. Countless streaks of blood-red light flowed on his body, exuding a majestic aura. In an instant, his whole body seemed to have become extremely tall and big. He looked like the ancestral dragon in the chaos. He suppressed heaven and earth. With my soul as a sacrifice, smelt heaven and earth. The great saint sacrificial art. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.